Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of intense racing action in the one and only UK Sim Racing Community GT3 League Season 15, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly sponsored by the Virtual Racing School, that's the VRS. We have made our way then into the final third of the championship campaign, and from all the trips we made around the world, we return for the third and final time to the United States of America for this season, and it will be in the picturesque countryside of Wisconsin that we bring the hammer down with the roar of Road America. And spanning the best part of 4.04 miles and consisting of a wonderful combination of corners, 14 in total, it is a circuit like no other when it generates an interesting contradiction, because the corner sequences, they are tight and condensed together, but the other end of the spectrum, the straights, are incredibly long, and in between our drives we need to find the right balance between nailing the corners and having a plenty of straight line grunt in order to run all the way down to the next corner sequence, knowing they've got the maximum top speed and they're able to outrun their rivals there, but they've got to be ready to be brave on the brakes when they arrive at the braking zone. And it is with that contradiction, it is with that combination that our drivers will need to do battle tonight as they try to get one up on each other as we head into the remaining rounds of the season, and with only 3 rounds to go including this one, well, points are becoming precious. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this post-round broadcast from circuit side, but you're tuning into a live broadcast and you're tuning in right now via one or two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. You could be tuning in via firstly the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube, including none other there than Krista Halsoy, who we say hello to, has been enjoying the music in the background, and also we say hello there to Sean Cranleigh-Swash. Good evening to you both, and to all you guys and girls tuning in right now who haven't said hello, don't be shy, feel free to say hello. We don't bite here at UK Sim Racing. The only biting we do is on the brakes into each and every apex. But of course, if you're not tuning in via YouTube, you could be tuning in right now via an alternative media platform, and that would be none other than what would be Twitch, at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But regardless of which media platform you're tuning in via, whether it be via Twitch, alternatively via YouTube, you're going to have the same broadcast and you're going to have the same commentator in the commentary booth. But allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action as it unfolds, as our tries continue on the story of the season, and indeed what a season it has been so far. As we get ready to go into today, of course we should remind you that this is a post-round broadcast for you in pleasure. But what exactly does that mean as a post-round broadcast? Well, what it means is the racing itself is not live. It occurred as of yesterday evening on Sunday the 17th of August 2025, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday the 18th of August 2025, and we do not know what happens in the practice session, which is currently ongoing, nor in the upcoming qualifying session or in the race, which is to come, and therefore it's completely raw and new to us here in the quarantine booth. And we do ask, of course, that if you do know the outcome, well, no spoilers in the chat, please, because we want to make sure this is spoiler free for all the guys and girls tuning at home for whom this is the first exposure. Indeed, this will be as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience. But as we make our way into this round then, well, let's set the scene. We are at Road America, and as we can see, we are very quickly emerging towards our championship finale at the Nürburgring across the price tracker in round 10 of 10. But as we make our way there, last time out it was a trip to Brazil at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in round number 7. And well, what was the story there on the 10th of August? Well, the story was an intriguing one. In the elite class, a man who struggled to put it up inside the top 5, indeed he qualified all the way down in 9th overall, but our elite championship leader really proved that he's got the strategy of champions. Daniel Stasuk made his way through to take his 5th win of the season in an absolutely roaring charge, whereas all of his rivals seemed to stumble by comparison when it came to the amount of fuel they need to put in their cars. None more so than Pavel Dolezal had a nightmare day at the office, and Stasuk's main championship rival now knowing that he needs a lot of misfortune to hit Stasuk if he wants to try and bring home that elite crown. In the pro class, meanwhile, well, there we got to see a very different story. Daniel Shillcock was the one to finally find a way to beat Ruben Berings, albeit he had to get his elbows out and trade paint in order to do so. And in the AM class, well, another podium for Sean Cranleigh-Swash meant that he's kept his championship lead, but Jack Barker finally had a good day in the office after 6 rounds of absolute misery and only completing 3 laps, if that, before ending up in the barriers. When round number 7, he was able to avoid drama and pick up his first win of the season. And in rookie was absolute dominance there, and absolutely pro show performance from the rookie of Luke Checker, and I'm not just saying that to make him feel good, and the fact he was up there with the pace of a good number of AM drivers and even some of our pros. But Road America today is where the scene is set, and as our drivers make the way into this one, of course, after today, we've got Silverstone in a week's time, and then an Nürburgring to bring the curtain down. But talking a little bit about our circuit then, it's Elkhart Lake that we're situated at, the village in Sheboygan County of the US state of Wisconsin. We're taking on the full course of Road America, and a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their simulator, but also the absolutely wonderful track maps that are contained within it. And this circuit does have quite a bit of elevation change, but the main theme around here is its long straights and its corners, as we mentioned earlier. 14 corners in total, and as you can see, the lap starting off with a number of gradual sweepers, and with it, long straights, and it's in the latter half lap where we really see the majority of the corners suddenly arise, and a very tricky middle sector from turn 5 all the way to the kink at turn number 11, and the infamous kink there where our drivers will be flat out for the right-hander, but they've got to get it right, because if they don't, they'll find themselves very quickly making haste to the barriers, and that's well before they get to Canada Corner. But will it be an arrival at Canada Corner in safety or not? Well, that's what we'll wait and see from all our drivers as they get ready to do battle around here. But as for our rules and regulations, well, let's give you a quick reminder before we do go racing. Well, rules-wise, in car setup, this is an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 60% for all of the races. Qualifying-wise, a closed qualifying format shall be used, and our drivers have 4 flying laps available to them after they completed their outlap. And keep in mind that qualifying is 10 minutes in duration, and with a lap time around here of over 2 minutes, where you do the mathematics, that full flying lap is going to be impossible to attain, and therefore it does mean that all our drivers will have some extra pressure in the cooker here with regards to the fact they only have the outlap plus free flying laps if they nail all of them. Race-wise, the race shall commence via a double-fold rolling start, as is the tradition of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, with there being one mandatory pit stop for fuel, but changing tyres is entirely optional. However, weather could play a factor here. More on that shortly. Each driver has one fast repair available, should they need it, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 20 or more instant points. Meanwhile, all race journeys shall be conducted post-race. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to go racing, well, of course, a quick reminder, our VRS colleagues, indeed, a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season, the Virtual Racing School, where they continue to do a giveaway each and every round to our competitors of a 3-month, a 2-month, and a 1-month subscription, one of each, and any driver who takes to the grid for the round shall be eligible to enter the raffle draw for each prize, so long as they have not won the prize in a previous round, and we'll be announcing our giveaway winners after the racing concludes. Well, that's the scene, that's everything set. Let's head back to circuit side, and as we do, well, we can see their circuit is gradually drying up, but the intensity of the circuit is definitely not drying up, and what our schedule for tonight is as follows. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. As we can see, in just over 5 minutes' time, we'll be making our way into qualifying. That'll be at 8 o'clock this evening, 10 minutes in duration. All the drivers having the best part of 4 flying laps, but 3 in reality, in order to try and get the job done, after which they'll be then heading to the grid for our 60-minute feature race. All the races 60 minutes in duration this season, and all of our racers absolutely eager to try and make a good impression, and indeed, no doubt, let's hear. But as they make the way on around, well, who has been the fastest and who is looking to try and improve in this final practice warm-up session? Well, that's what we're waiting to see here, as we do see Mr. Simon Bamber gradually tiptoeing his way on around the circuit as he does so, and making his way on through there. Right now for Simon Bamber, it's looking as though he's going to need to find a little bit more pace out there, albeit he'll want to do so just to stay ahead of Austin William Campbell, because he is the fastest driver out there in the Effect Simulations Mercedes AMG Evo, but all of the drivers here will be very eager to try and make a big dent when it comes to going well. Oh, goodness me, that is a very, very sideways Audi there. Not quite sure who lost it there. Was that Brett Berings who had a big slide across the circuit? I think it might have been in the Audi, and well, for Brett Berings, that definitely did not work out the way he intended it to. But Simon Bamber definitely looking ferociously quick here, and his Effect Simulations teammate of Austin William Campbell not too far behind, as both drivers here right now proving to be the fastest, elite and overall. Helder Gonzalez then being the next in the McLaren, a further 2 tenths behind, but Bamber versus William Campbell, it is only 400ths if that. Meanwhile, in the AM class, and I say the AM class next, not the Pro class, not because my eyesight is terrible, and indeed I can't believe my eyes here, Nathan Anstis right now proving to be the next fastest class driver, currently 4th overall, but leader provisional fastest in his practice session of the AM class, on a 2-minute 13.525, but only ahead of Darren Orkett by a slender margin. Now, a lot of this is not just going to be due to the performance of the driver naturally around this circuit, but also keep in mind that we do have some very interesting conditions here, because we do have rain that's come in the previous day before, and indeed it's been raining for some time, and coming into this practice session, the rain has gone away and the circuit is gradually drying up as long as our drivers continue to pump in the laps and keep the track temperature up there. So right now it's going to be a game of a drying circuit, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of our drivers right now are naturally finding more and more pace with every lap turned. And it wouldn't be a strange thing if we did see a dry circuit come the race, or at least by the end of qualifying. So it's going to mean that qualifying could definitely stir the pot, as meanwhile Darren Norquette decides to stir the pot and says to Nathan Anstis, well, good on you for taking the fastest lap in AM, but I'm going to take the fastest lap in Pro to 11.968 and sandwiches himself right between Bamba and Alberto Gravelli as they all continue to improve out there. But as he moves up the rankings, meanwhile BJ Alvarez, well, the fastest driver in rookie at the moment, and he needs this urgently. And the reason we say that is because right now it's looking as though Alistair Murray is running away with the rookie championship, with BJ Alvarez missing 2 rounds in the middle portion of the season. Keep in mind, all drivers do have 2 drop scores available to them, so it's not a fault of theirs if they can't make all 10 rounds. They are permitted to miss 2 rounds, but of course the downside to missing 2 rounds is that you lose out on the ability to be able to essentially sacrifice rounds as you go. Instead, if you lock into 0 scores, you've essentially said, right, I've got no more drop scores to play with, and then suddenly every round from that point onwards has to be perfection. And that's what BJ Alvarez is now suffering from, is the fact that he's got to make sure he hits success each and every time. But we'll see what he's going to be able to do as he does and dices with his rivals here today, but making his way on through right now for BJ Alvarez. Definitely this is a good way to start it in BIM. What is there the fastest of the rookie drives by 3.5 tenths. But as he wheedles his way on around, we do say hello there as well to Jordan Jones, or Jordan Lee Jones as he's 9 in full in the YouTube chat, and also to Nathan Anstis, or Anstis Races, the number 96 driver. Good evening to you, Nathan. But what else can we see out there at the moment? Well, it does look as though at the moment, well, it's getting very close at the top there. This is practice, by the way. Pavel Dolezal now the fastest, a 2 minute 10.821. Sadly, we don't have data available to suggest whether they're on wet or dry tyres. However, I'm going to take a guess here, given the amount of dry line we are seeing and the fact the sunshine is out there, that we are seeing a drying circuit, and a lot of our drivers, if not all of them, will be on the slick compound at this point, because the amount of water spray coming up off the rear wheel arches is minuscule unless they go off racing line. But of course, keep in mind at Road America the fact that you do have quite a bit of camber thrown into the curves of the course, and therefore there's a lot of standing water sometimes on the curbs. Curves, goodness me, say that multiple times, I dare you, in quick succession. But as I try to make the way around here, as you can see, that is where there is a lot of danger of standing water on the non-racing line sections coming up towards Canada. But as he makes his way on out, well, it does look as though there Pavel Dolezal keeping to that dry line, and that is where the lap time is being delivered. So that is going to make it interesting in the race, because we might have the start of the race at least, whereby on the racing line at least it's completely dry. Go off racing line, however, and suddenly you're going to discover that you still do have a shallow swimming pool to deal with on slick tyres. And in the early stage of the race, where tyre temperature is so crucial these days, with the revamping of the GT3 tyre model on iRacing as of the commencement of this season, where we have seen tyre temperatures much harder to attain, but tyre life is much more gradually decaying over the course of a race distance rather than just sudden, particularly if you have a major mistake. Well, that could definitely flip things upside down. But let's turn things up the right way, ladies and gents. It's time to head into qualifying. 10 minutes. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. So as qualifying gets underway and all the drivers make the way out there, well, it's going to be a quick run out there, no doubt about it. As Jack Barker being one of the very first to take this Road America circuit, and he's very eager, much like all of them, to get out there as quickly as he possibly can. But the aim of the game here is a battle against the clock. As we mentioned earlier, the fact that our drivers have 10 minutes, they have 4 flying laps plus their out lap, but 10 minutes and a lap time of over 2 minutes, you do the maths, and it does mean, unfortunately, 10 is not divisible by 2.5 into 5. It divides into 4. And so therefore, with the rounding and whatnot, it means that our drivers only have those 3 flying laps available. Because when we see the clock strike 10 minutes, there's no overtime either. No overtime rules in effect. This is not a football match whereby it could go on forever. But instead, it means that all of our drivers here will only have the laps they've done so far in which to set their best possible time. If they're on a lap, that lap will be discontinued and they'll be told you can't go any further. But how do you do a good lap at Road America? Well, in the dry, this is one of the circuits where you've got to have a lot of tyre temperature. You've got to have a lot of commitment in the car because most of the corners around here really are heavy braking zones. They're preceded by them and late apexes, as that's gone very wrong for Jack Barker, under braking there into the hairpin at turn number 8, and will Barker there into the barrier. That's going to be a very frustrating one, and I wouldn't be surprised there if that is just the left-hand side tyres stepping onto some water compared to the racing line, and Barker there puts the brakes on and the car just completely snapping on him. As we do see there, Hendrik Zilka, well, he decides to take a little bit of a tighter run through the kinks of what is there coming down towards turn number 4, and as he does so, we'll find a little bit of water just there. We're in fact coming down into turn number 6 there because the kinks on that straight are turns 4 and 5. But Zilka, at least right now in the accuracy, seemingly keeping things pointed in the right direction, and that could be really a story here right now. It may be the case in some of our classes, if not in all of them. Some drivers may fall by the wayside just by simply dipping a tyre on the wet surface where they want to stay on that dry surface. But Zilk here definitely taking his time, making his way around in the number 2, trying to find some temperature in those tyres. They're doing a bit of bobbing and weaving. That's trying to get some sidewall temperature as Venari racing driver just goes a little bit deep there, and I think realising that actually he can't get away with that. Luke Checker, meanwhile, well, he's had a bit of a moment there, as that is Checker making his way out of Canada Corner in reference to the direction it's pointing towards Canada, and as the number 16 driver in the Ferrari makes his way up the hill through turns 13A and 13B, the chicane, well, now in towards turn 14 he goes, and as he does so, he decides to become a bit camera shy for a brief moment, and then makes his way back on our proverbial picture to go on to his first flying lap. But number drive is definitely struggling here so far, and this is just the out lap. You can imagine now when they go on to the first flying lap, it's going to feel as though there's an angel and devil on the shoulder. The angel on one side will be saying that you need to take it easy. The devil, meanwhile, will say you haven't got time to do that, and this is going to be a very challenging qualifying session for the simple reason those who are able to find the middle ground between risk versus reward, they are going to be rewarded the most, whereas those who play it cautious, they will get a good lap in. However, what they will struggle to do by comparison is put themselves up there with the very best at times. And keep in mind, it's a closed qualifying session as well. Oh, goodness me, yes, that's a bit too much exit curve there for Niels Bacage. And the NJB Performance Ford Mustang takes a trip round and rolls its way back onto the circuit there. And, well, in the end, Niels able to reclaim that and carry on as if it didn't go wrong. However, he has lost a lot of time, and that's going to invalidate the lap. But such an easy mistake to make there. Ryan Walker, meanwhile, for 3M Altitude Esports, he goes on to his maiden journey, flying lap. And as he does so, well, you want to use those exit curves as much as possible in the dry, but not so in the wet, and a lot of water congregating on them at the moment. The curbs are your enemy in wet conditions. They are not your friend. However, if you run wide out onto them, as Ryan Walker does there, you've got to have a lot of confidence in the car, and your steering angle needs to be pointed dead straight by the time you touch that curb, and you need to have got some traction on the tyres. There's a lot of preconditions in the wet before you even dare dip a tyre onto the curbs, and, well, Ryan Walker definitely ticking the boxes there as we say hello to Niel Kenyon, and also to Simon Bamber in the YouTube chat, as Ryan Walker there takes the trip a bit too deep, runs out wide, and that is going to be an invalidated lap as he makes his way back up to speed. Plenty of runoff area there, coming down in towards turn number 6, but even then going that deep, you're not going to get away with it as he makes his way onwards. But from him, well, first lap times are starting to come on in shortly, as this is your Elite Championship leader of Daniel Stasuk heading towards the timing line, and as he does so, well, what's it going to be here for the first reference lap on the board? With the best part of 5 minutes left in this qualifying session, well, Stasuk sets the bar at 2 minute 19.469. It's a respectable lap, but there's plenty more time out there. And as he makes his way down in towards turn number 1, he'll know there is more to go. But as he's crossed that line, we've got more lap times coming in. Xander Hill has crossed the line, but has not set a bad lap on his first flying lap, so that's not going anywhere. Simon Bamber, 2.2 seconds behind. Daniel Pay sets a 2 minute 23.248 in the first of the AM times. As we say hello to Hendrik Zilka there. And I hope you're doing well, Mr. Zilka, this evening. But as everyone continues to pump the lap times in, well, in Pro, Krista Halzoy in the Corvette Z06, he sets his initial lap time there of a 2 minute 22.572. And speaking of the Tractics Racing driver and the team, what contradictory conditions and indeed outcomes for the two teammates of Halzoy and also Shillcock at Interlagos. Krista Halzoy, not around to be remembered, did not quite work out for him, indeed had a bit of a dismal day at the office. Meanwhile, his teammate Shillcock absolutely loved a huge graft of a battle versus Ruben Berings, and indeed the two of them pushing each other as much as humanly possible. But as they continue the way onwards and down towards turn number 6, well, As all drives make the way around there. That is a big cut loose down to braking for Krista Halsoy, and as he does so, the rear of the car letting go. And well, now I look at it, I think there's a bit more water in the circuit than perhaps there was at the end of practice there. So perhaps we had a tiny little downpour of rain. Alternatively, somebody got in touch with Bernie Ecclestone and finally decided to use the sprinkler system that was proposed to liven up F1 races. I think it was proposed as a bit more of a parody than anything serious, but you never know, to be fair, what comes out of the words of a man who definitely was the staple of Formula One for the best part of a few decades. But as we do see Darren Giacovelli making his way out of turn number 7 in towards a big slide down the Porsche 992, but the number 30 driver just taming the beast, and in fact right now the second fastest driver overall. Let's show you those overall times because that's how they're going to line up on this grid. And as he makes his way on around and in towards, oh goodness me, and the car coming to an absolute halt there, and well, I looked away for a brief moment, and for Darren Giacovelli that has gone very wrong. But Giacovelli right now, if things were to finish where they currently stand, he will be taking the highest qualifying position that we've ever seen from a rookie driver this season. That would be second place overall. But Daniel Stasuk finding a bit more time, and I've been informed that all drives out there at the moment either on wets or dries. So there's an absolute mixture out there, but a number of drivers I think decide to go to the wet tyre. But with this, I think it's going to be one of the situations where we're going to see a lot of drivers here put in a very last-minute lap, as over half the field has yet to get a valid lap on the board. Well, as Pavel Dolezal makes his way up towards the timing line, what's he going to do this time is the question, and the answer is going to be for Mr. Dolezal. He is going to cross that line of 219.668, but in fact 219.358 there as I adjust my specs, and as he makes his way down towards turn number 1, well, the 191 driver just ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis. But still, you can see all these lap times improving at the moment, so everyone now starting to tame their way on in, but nobody right now, it would seem, feeling overly comfortable. And we do just see our timing tower there have a little bit of a glitch, as it was trying to get tyre data, but no can go for tyre data, as that's a big cut loose for Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and just slides to a halt there, where he parks it up, and in the end, that for Milton Tomlinson Dennis is going to be the end of the session. BJ Alvarez now goes the fastest of everybody, with only a lap to go for those who went on to lap about 30 seconds ago. BJ Alvarez won't be getting another lap in. If that stands, we're going to have a rookie on pole position, a 2:17.839. This circuit is getting faster. I would imagine those out there at the moment on their final flying lap, if they're going to squeeze it in, they're going to suddenly leap up the order. Daniel Shillcock is going to be one of them as he makes his way onwards towards the timing line. What's he going to do now? He was 16th, and as he crosses that line, it's going to be for Daniel Shillcock. It's 14th now, 2 minute 20.457. Sean Cranleigh-Swash up to 17th on a 2:21.798. Everybody's finding a bit of time. Shillcock parks up. He knows he can't get another lap in. Daniel Stasuk, meanwhile, on his third and final flying lap. He will squeeze this in because he has got a minute left on the clock here. A bit of pressure, though, to get around in time. As we do have Simon Oldfield now taking what is provisional pole position on a 2 minute 20.661. That's 15th overall. Other surprises down there, Alberto Gravelli and also Joe Newman. They've yet to set a valid time. The same for Cy Anstey. The same for Malik Bass. The same for Joe Newman. Indeed, it is absolutely crazy right now in the fact that we have got a third of the field without a lap valid time. Daniel Stasuk, meanwhile, well, he puts a pin in it and says, right, we're not going to have a rookie on pole. I'm going to take pole. And Nathan Anstis then squeezes his way ahead at 2:16.502. 30 seconds left on the clock. Can anybody else find lap time? Well, Xander Hill goes full with a 2:18.547. Anstis then is looking to be the pole man right now. We've only got 20 seconds left on the clock. Austin William Campbell heads towards the line. Tobias Kruken goes up to 4th place on a 2:17.911 for Solpec Precision Racing. But what can our man in the Mercedes do here? William Campbell comes across the timing line, moves in 13th. James Powser moves up to 3rd. Has anybody else got anything more out there? I don't think they have. It's qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we'll have to see how they all stack up when we do go to the grid. And as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for round number 8 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15. Brought to you on iRacing and sponsored by VRS. We'll look at that. A dramatic end to a qualifying session where there was more water on the circuit compared to practice, and Nathan Anstis has made it count for UK Sim Racing Hill, taking pole position overall and in AM on a 2 minute 16.502. Daniel Stasuk lines up alongside for NJB Performance, 6.5 tenths behind, but the German driver will be happy to have out-qualified his championship rival in Elite, James Powson for Paceworks Esports, who starts in 3rd. Then we see BJ Alvarez, 4th place there, but your rookie pole sitter by a huge margin over his rival. So Alvarez there definitely putting a huge statement out there going into today for Push the Standard. And this top four right now, well, two very familiar names in our elite drivers, but an Am and a rookie who we wouldn't normally find up there. And right now they're going to find themselves under a lot of pressure. Then we see Tobias Kruken in 5th place. The Solpec Precision Racing left it late, but his final lap was an important one. 2nd place man in elite, and the main rival to Daniel Stasuk, Pavel Dolezal, starts 6th for Paceworks Esports, but not as far behind as he was at Interlagos. Xander Hill starts 7th there for TQ Simsport. Congratulations to the TQ Simsport driver for taking the pro pole position. He was ahead of Simon Bamber in the end by only a 10th for the Effect Simulations Carbon driver, sitting 8th. Ryan Walker takes 9th for Altitude 3M Esports. He's always a bit of a wonder, is Ryan Walker, in mixed conditions, and he shows that there with 2nd place in pro. Niels Bacard starts in 10th for NJB Performance. Round off your top 10 there, and behind the elite driver, well, there you're going to find a pro driver in the form of Nathan Foster, the privateer. In 12th, we're going to have your second of your rookie drivers. That's Jordan Jones. A great performance from him as well. And Jordan Jones finding some late time there, and indeed very important time, no doubt about it, with Austin William Campbell taking 13th for Effect Simulations. He's joined on the 7th row of the grid by Andrew Fairley for NJP Performance, and the Ford Mustang driver will then have the parent of the Mercedes of Milton Tomlinson Dennis for World of Racing with STR Motorsports, and Darian Giacovelli for Swazi Gold, who, having to abort his final lap, what could it have been on the number 30 Porsche 992, given the fact he looked to be ferociously fast in these wet conditions. In fact, stalling off the line there does Giacovelli as he finally gets it underway. I think just missing a gear selection. But as we then come to 17th, and on that 9th row of the grid, it's Daniel Shillcock for Tractix Racing, ahead of Simon Oldfield for Hoof Hearted. Completing the top 20, we've then got James Conley for UK Sim Racing Stewart and Helder Gonzalez for Tractix Racing. Coming from row number 10 to row number 11, and there you'll find the combination pair of Sean Cranleigh-Swash for Pigeon Racing and Niel Kenyon for UK Sim Racing Price. We'll then have Krista Halzoy starting this one 23rd for Tractix Racing, and that is a positive, despite the fact he's starting so far down, and we'll explain why it's positive very shortly, because he's ahead of Alistair Murray, the rookie championship leader for UK Sim Racing Hill, who will know today he needs to make some progress, because that's 4th place in rookie and not the place he wants to start. Rob Windsor will be taking 25th on the grid for UK Sim Racing Stewart, ahead of Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars. Behind the Dane will then come to the Portuguese driver of Daniel Pays for Old Dudes in Cars, his teammate, with then none other than Hendrik Zilka starting in 28th for Venari Racing. Oh, my goodness, what on earth has happened there? In the rear of your picture, it's gone very, very wrong for somebody, and somebody's been turned around before they've even gone green flag racing. I believe we have seen the ejection there of a car, and I think that's Brett Berings who's been ejected sideways. But as we then come to Alberto Gravelli, who starts this one in 29th for Effect Simulations, well, he's in the company of fellow elite driver Altitude 3M Esports, Joe Newman, who rounds off your top 30. Outside the top 30, we've then got 31st, Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere, and that is why his rival Chris Halsway will not be too upset he's qualified so far down, because Ruben Berings has qualified even further down the order, but watch out for the Belgian driver. He will look to roar his way through the field. Darren Norquette begins this one 32nd for Racing Forces, ahead of Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars and Malik Bass, who starts 34th for Max Q Racing. Then 35th on the grid, it's Cy Anthony for UK Sim Racing Price, ahead of Brett Berings, who was going to start 36th on the grid, but after that contact between himself and I believe Luke Checker got involved in that, but don't quote me on that, to be fair. That's what I'm getting on my data, but Dan Oliver Fox also seemed to be an actor in that incident of some description. Well, between them all, Brett Berings will now be starting from the pit lane for DDK with Digital Motor Art. 37th on this grid, Jack Barker for Made for Racing, no valid lap set, and all these drivers with no valid lap set, and it's based on essentially when they got around on their warm-up lap in qualifying. With the Made for Racing driver then followed up by Nathan Scott for Empire Motorsport, and then completing your top 40 and all your runners, it is going to be Luke Checker, rookie there in 39th, ahead of fellow rookie driver of Dan Oliver Fox. So that's how they'll line up. Darren Norquette has also had to toe to pit. So has Luke. Well, no, not Luke Checker there. Darren Norquette is in the pit lane, however. So therefore, we've had two pros end up in altercation. I think it was Norquette's car that I caught out the corner of mine, not Brett Berings'. And well, it's gone very wrong for them. But right now, for the drivers who are out there, they're going to be hoping it all goes right. Now, as they get themselves set and ready to go, we can see there everyone forming into single file formation here. Even though they're meant to hold two wide formation, nobody wants to, because they're all trying to pump as much much temperature as possible into the tyres of their car right now. As we can see, the 2 wide further back, but the leaders definitely making the most of trying to go 1 wide, at least for a bit, as they all coming around. But we are not too far away now from going green flag racing as all the field winds its way together. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, at the very front of the field, it is to Nathan Anstis to take us away for 60 minutes of racing here at Road America. And what a troubling day it could be today. As the pace builds, it is go, go, go for Nathan Anstis. He takes us green flag racing here at Road America for round number 8 of the championship. Anstis gets a good start, and as he roars his way onwards, well, Daniel Stasuk tucks him right behind, as is James Powelson. They all coming down there, and well, the circuit's wet at the moment. It's going to drive very quickly, as here comes Stasuk looking around the outside, immediately trying to go on the offensive, but Anstis covers him off. Further back there, everyone braking late as they can, as we can see Ryan Walker there, trying to keep Nathan Foster behind. Austin William Campbell still there with him as well. Everyone's safely on through the opening corner at least, down through to it, in towards 3. Niels Bakaja still battling side by side with Walker in the battle of the Mustangs, but then Bakaja goes a bit deep and tries to go around the outside of Xander Hill as a result of it. As we can see there, John Lee Jones taking a little bit of an escapade, and in the end the 58 tried just about keeping it together, but the rookie driver there will pay for that slight run wide, and now is going to try and make his way a bit further up the order as BJ Alvarez, the rookie pole sitter, well, he's now being passed up the inside by 1, then 2. Could it be 3 here? We'll see, as under braking, well, everyone getting a bit squirrely here, and Xander Hill just getting a little bit caught up in the Constantino effect. It's going to be 2 wide, they're 3 wide for a brief moment, as that is the McLaren of Nathan Foster moving forward, and Austin William Campbell now up the inside of BJ Alvarez and making haste further behind. Well, there we can see more moments with Darian Giacovelli being passed by Alistair Murray, and Dan Oliver Fox, meanwhile, the last of our starters, well, he's now starting to catch up to the field, but Alistair Murray here off racing line, but a very dry line there on the outside of turn 7, and well, that's going to enable him to pick up some pieces. As meanwhile, speaking of pieces, Tobias Kruken is all in pieces here, as the car has gone around at turn number 8. I'm not sure if he was aided on his journey or whether he made it of his own volition, but either way, that's one trip he didn't want to make, but thankfully it's only a detour and he can carry on racing. But Tobias Kruken now, I think that's going to be a very frustrating one for the simple reason that has not worked out whatsoever. But coming on around then and up towards the King corner here, well, this will be flat out in dry conditions, but it's not going to be flat out right now because they will still be dealing with the wet track surface. All the drivers coming on through here, and now nose to tail they go, as a little bit further up the order, Andrew Fairley battling his way out the inside of BJ Alvarez, and now it's going to be Helder Gonzalez coming in like a spear in towards turn number 12 and into Candle Corner. He gets it done. BJ Alvarez takes a lot of exit curb. That's going to send the car slightly sideways, and now Milton Tomlinson Dennis thinks about trying to go around the outside. Can he hold it together for World of Racing? Yes, he can. A lovely move there as Milton Tomlinson Dennis catches up a little bit more in towards the back of Helder Gonzalez. But after 1 lap of racing, it is Daniel Stasuk who leads this now by 7 tenths over James Powelson. Your top 2 are elite drivers. Then you have your overall pole sitter, and with it your AM pole sitter, Nathan Anstis, being passed there by Pavel Dolezal, but the McLaren driver will be happy if that actually falls to 4th. But Simon Bamber now trying to also get a little bit close there, running in 5th. Oh, goodness me, now that is too wide, and Nathan Anstis offline there. That's going to cost him a lot of momentum as they come down towards turn number 3. Onto the brakes they go, and Simon Bamber here is going to squeeze his way out the inside. Anstis down on the outside. Well, there's nowhere else he can really go other than just temper the car down. They're still drag racing the way along. This McLaren is no slouch, and Anstis really keeping his head down here, and I think trying to will the car along, as meanwhile Simon Bamber firmly tucked into the tyre of Pavel Dolezal, and I get the feeling that Simon Bamber may have put a bit more rear wing on that Mercedes in order to give it better traction out the corners, because normally you'd expect that Mercedes to just pull away from the McLaren on the longer straights, but not quite now. But it goes to show you there also that Nathan Anstis feeling quite confident with the car. But up the hill and over the crest and in towards the left-hand turn 7 they come once again, and Anstis falls to 5th. Niels Bakaja is 6th. Then you have your pro leader of Nathan Foster. He sits in 7th ahead of Austin William Campbell. Xander Hill sits in 9th place and started in 1st place of the pros, where it's gone a bit backwards in the early stages. Nathan Foster's been able to capitalise, but keep your eyes out for the TT Sim Sport driver. He won't be out of this yet, with Andrew Fairley completing a top 10. That's tapped to the rear from Helder Gonzalez, and Gonzalez there getting very close as we ride on board with the 11th place driver. Now coming through the carousel here, well, as he does so, this is all about getting a very good exit, because now you're going to carry all that momentum and speed up towards the kink and then onwards towards Canada Corner. But for Helder Gonzalez, it was a bit of a run deep. The understeer crept in there with the dirty air, and will right now. He has to lift off as he makes his way on through. Took a lot of entry curve on the front left tyre, and that would have unsettled the car. So Gonzalez losing out there versus Andrew Fairley. And in that Ford Mustang, well, in the straights, it's definitely going to pull away. 5-litre V8 machine versus twin-turbo V8 of this McLaren. But the Mustang has a panache for running away into the distance as soon as it gets a long straight line to drive on. But as they come through turn 13A and 13B, Helder Gonzalez there, almost mounting the curb, and with it running into the back of Andrew Fairley. Gonzalez feeling very confident in his corners, but not as soon as they make the way out here, because you'll see now they make the way into the straight, and well, they'll stay together, but that McLaren is not close enough to think about a move, or is it? Well, we'll see then as they head on to lap number 3. He's close. He's as close as he's going to be. Almost within a 10th now as he gets right on the back of his rival, but surely he's not going to consider it into turn 1. That would be tantamount to craziness there, just simply because of the wet line, and indeed decides not to go for it. Further back, we do look to BJ Alvarez, as we do see there Jordan Jones being passed by one of our drivers, and that was the pass being made. Well, in fact, that was Niel Kenyon passing BJ Alvarez, and Jordan Jones under pressure from Tobias Kruken as we try to get our ducks in order. And we can see Tobias Kruken up the inside here. The two rookie drivers being interrupted by this elite driver right now, although for Tobias, you can understand that he wants to make progress after a dismal start to his race. Speaking of that, we need to get a replay of what exactly happened, and we will do so in short order, ladies and gentlemen. But coming on down in towards turn number 6, and as they do, well, from them we do see they're still side by side between Fairley and Hill. Further back, Ryan Walker had to keep Niel Kenyon at bay. Niel Kenyon has absolutely come alive in this race, up into 3rd in the AM class. Not happy if Walker's defending there is Niel Kenyon, but I think that's more because Kenyon wants to chase down Sean Cranleigh-Swash, and Ryan Walker right now really acts as a bit of rear guard to the Pigeon Racing driver. They're not part of the same team, but I don't think Sean Cranleigh-Swash is going to be complaining about that, as that is still too wide between Gonzalez and Hill coming out to turn 8 in towards 9, and Xander Hill in the end falling down the order after their little battle. And well, you can understand if they were enjoying that one a bit too much, but Ryan Walker's gone around there, and well, as he brings it back together, that's at turn number 8 as everyone slows down in response to Ryan Walker rejoining, but he rejoins safely in the end. Great awareness from everybody involved, and all the drivers there making sure not to trip over each other's toes and make it a bit of a domino effect. Further back, we do see Dana Oliver Fox trying to run away from Luke Checker. These two still running together, as Luke Checker has in fact been passed by Oliver Fox since the start of the race. And Darren Norquette, our poster man, coming into this round. Well, he was the man who ended up getting called to that altercation on the formation lap. He started on the pit lane, and right now Darren Norquette just trying to pick up the pieces here. He's currently running 9th of your pro drivers, and there's a lot more places to go before he's going to be battling with one of his pro peers, because next up are the two rookies, Valestimate and Darren Giacovelli, and they are 4 seconds ahead, as we've had a mistake there from Darren Giacovelli at Canada Corner. You can see the dust cloud going up from where he's emerged from the gravel, and Alistair Murray now taking 3rd place in rookie as a result. But as he does so, well, meanwhile, coming back to the front of the field, and well, Daniel Stasuk has already left the cameraman behind. There you can see him off in the distance. He's going that fast that our cameraman can't keep up with him. Meanwhile, James Powell and Pavel Dolezal and Simon Bamber, they're all pushing each other along here as they make the way onwards towards turn number 6. But the point being that Nathan Anstish is staying with them, and Niels Bacard would like to get involved there and really break up the Mercedes train and put his Ford Mustang right in amongst all the V8 machinery there. But he'll need to get a little bit closer if he wants to do that. Nathan Foster in the rear of your picture, well, he's fallen back a little bit at this current point, but Nathan Foster running a great race right now, and with 5 seconds between himself and Xander Hill, is looking to be firmly in control of this race, or at least at this time. But through the left-hand up turn at number 7 he goes, and as he does so, well, of course, there's a long way to go and anything can happen, although it's crazy to think we are already 8 minutes into the race distance. All these drivers here doing a fantastic job negotiating very challenging conditions, and well, as we see Casper Brock out the inside of Joe Newman, who went a little bit deep. Well, Newman brings it back together in the end, but not without losing the places there, and Cy Anthony follows him through in the UK Sim Racing McLaren. Lovely livery on that car, it must be said. The blue really accentuated over the bodywork, but making the way on out there. Lovely blue and white as well, and the Old Dudes in Cars Mercedes. And well, you can always know it's an ODIC machine, because the Old Dudes in Cars there do split the colour scheme between blue, white, and a little bit of black, and well, it's absolutely iconic as they head in towards the carousel. But from them, iconic racing here. This is a change of position for second. Pavel Dolezal ahead of James Powsland, and Powsland here, I think that's a swap of position to help his teammate in the championship, but it hasn't worked out because Simon Bamber has now stuck ahead as well. And well, for James Powell, you can understand if he will be happy that he's let his teammate go, but he'll be frustrated as well because look at Bamber immediately all over the back of Dolezal. They make contact there of a twitch coming through turn number 14, and Bamber right now, he's really going to spoil the party here for Paceworks Esports. They just wanted to take it nice and easy, but it hasn't worked out at all. And Simon Bamber right now, I think he's decided, you know what, there's a championship going on. Yes, I'm very aware of that, but I don't really care. He's taken the script and he's torn it up, and here he goes. He's going to throw the pages all over the floor, and as he goes onto the brakes here, well, this is going against the trend, and it's going to be up the inside there. Into second place goes Simon Bamber. Pavel Dolezal now will tuck in behind, but the problem is with these guys fighting, Daniel Stasuk, who just set the fastest lap of the race at 2:08.24, is right now already 4 seconds clear. So is it going to be a situation where Bamber ends up scrapping more and more, or is he going to be able to pull these guys along? Well, that's going to be the challenge here. But if you're Pavel Dolezal right now, you've just got to wait and see what Bamber does. He's a bit of an unpredictable driver at this point in terms of how it sits in this race. I'm not discrediting the way he races, of course, but the fact that he's really just come in and completely turned the table over. But speaking of turning things over here, Niels Bakaj up the inside there versus Nathan Anstis. Anstis not going to be too upset about that because that is your AM leader being passed by your elite 5th place driver. So therefore for Bakaj, he will just watch on here. And Nathan Foster also looking, and well, I always get the two Nathans mixed up, I must admit. And right now we do have the battle of the two Nathans brewing here, and it's going to be to see who is the superior Nathan. Well, on paper you would argue it's the pro Nathan of Nathan Foster and the sim coach McLaren behind in the pinky purple livery. However, Nathan Anstis here I think will try to prove as well that he can hold his own, even if he might be an AM driver and therefore on paper at least the slower driver, or at least not as strong a driver based on the class reckoning. But of course we've seen some absolutely incredible performances from our lower class drivers this season, and we're going through turn number 11 right now. The kink there, not seeing any difference between the two of them in terms of speeds they take. Now, we did promise that we'd get some replays of things that happened earlier on, but we haven't got around to them yet, as we do see there, Cy Anstey minus a front bumper. Well, that's not normally how these McLarens look, but something's definitely fallen off the car at some point. And well, for Cy Anstey, that is going to be a car that's going to have a lot more aerodynamic drag on the straight, and that's going to cost him a lot of time by comparison with what he would like to achieve. So I wouldn't be surprised there if there's going to be a degree of annoyance, because he'll be losing out now versus Casper Rotner every time he needs to go up into 5th and 6th gear, such as here coming down in towards Canada Bend. As he does so, well, we are going to take a look back at some of the drama in the early stage of the racing, ladies and gentlemen. And well, without further ado, when we did go green flag racing, this is where it all went wrong. Firstly, for Tobias Kruken, as we do look to the replay. Now this was on your open lap coming down towards turn number 8. Kruken on the inside there, batting at the time with the 191. Ooh, goodness me. Now that's interesting. Got a little bit sideways there as he made his way onto the apex curb. And for Tobias Kruken, there was some contact between himself and Pavel Dolezal. I don't think there was any malice meant there, but I think Kruken hit the curb. That unsettled the car, and then with the little bit of contact between himself and Dolezal, that was enough to kick that Mercedes around, but very quickly recovered it, credit where it's due. So good job there to bring the car back together. We then had this for Nathan Scott on the opening lap. This was Nathan Scott making his way down towards turn number 6, and onto the brakes he went, but what exactly went wrong? The rear of the car just completely letting go there, and well, the Empire Motorsport driver had a frustrating moment, no doubt about it. And then we came to Jack Barker. This was on lap number 2, and well, he was at the time chasing after the old dudes in cars machine of Darren Sharples, coming through the corner, and the rear just letting go there. You could see it was starting to lift up, rolling backwards, and well, thankfully avoiding the drivers that were with him. Indeed, kept it in a straight line as much as possible, but understandably, the made for racing driver there will be absolutely fuming after the happiness of last time out at Interlagos. It's all gone a bit wrong. But we then do see none other there than Milton Tomlinson Dennis, who had a little bit of run deep there at Canada Bend. But something tells me this is going to go even. Whoa, goodness me, in fact, something's gone wrong on that car. I think he's hit the barrier coming through what was the kink, and that might explain why he's had to tow to the pits. We also had this only moments later for Alberto Gravilli, and this was on lap number 2. What exactly went wrong here for Gravilli? Well, he was going in and already damaged. Oh, goodness me, he's been in the wars. I'm not quite sure what's damaged the front right suspension, but Gravilli's car, they're dragging along the ground, not the way he's wanted it to go. And then we had this on lap number 3 for Brett Berings. Now, Berings, of course, involved in that formation lap incident that saw him have to start from the pit lane. The DDK Race Anywhere driver sliding one way, then the other, and in the end, the car just cutting loose and he couldn't get it under control. And then lastly, what happened to Ryan Walker here, you asked, at turn number 8? Well, I think this is going to be very analogous to Tobias Kruken, who was right there with him, funny enough. So I think Tobias is going to see this happen. And Walker just lost the rear. I think Kruken might have missed him just about, but Ryan Walker was already on his way round, and everyone did very well there to avoid getting caught up. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we've caught up with your opening couple of lap instance. Let's return to your live racing. Now, as we do, of course, some time has passed since we caught all the racing there, and now come back to all the action. We're on lap number 7, and with Daniel Stasuk as our leader, well, he's firmly in control at the time. Simon Bamber 4.5 seconds back, and still trying to get a little bit closer here as they head onwards. Now, we do say hello to a few more of you in the respective YouTube chat since the last time we took a look, and that does include, albeit not limited to, Nathan Foster, also there to Sky King, who I believe is Daniel Stasuk, although I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong here. Always a difficulty trying to remember all the usernames. And we also do say hello to Ryan Walker, who's very happy with how qualifying went, but went downhill after playing it safe at the start and starting all wets, which bit into him big time. And of course there is that big question of who started on what time. Sky King there corrected us to say, no, that's Tobias Crooked. Well, I hope you're doing well, Tobias. Goodness me. I'll get them right one day. I'm going to need to create a list of all the YouTube usernames as well as all the driver names. I'll remember them one day. But as all drives make the way on around, well, we are the best part of 15 minutes into this race. Sadly, we can't have the timer on screen today. We are working on getting a race timer available. Hopefully we'll have something for a week's time at Silverstone, but we do have a clock off screen which we are monitoring for you. So therefore we don't know how many laps are in this race, but we are keeping an eye on the clock for you instead, just to make sure this is as close as possible to live as our drivers carry on. But as they do, well, you're looking back at the fight here for 4th place. James Powelson, Niels Bacard and Nathan Anstis all going each other along, and as they do, well, Bacard here takes a sneak peek up the inside, but it's too far back, and I think that's more to try and get into the head of the 786 driver, but he's not going to be getting into his head right now. Instead, he's going to be getting into the braking zone. But coming down, well, a lovely run there in the Ford Mustang, and now that Mercedes AMG is going to be under a bit of pressure with Nathan Anstis queuing up behind them. And, well, credit where it's due, Nathan Anstis doing a fantastic job. Now, whilst all this is happening, you may have noticed we are missing another McLaren. In fact, Nathan Foster, who has fallen on behind. Now, I believe Nathan Foster has had a technical issue that has seen him have to retire the car to the pit lane. And, well, as a result, but it's a bit of a sad day for the pro driver who was running very well, and we were getting ready for the battle of the two Nathans, but that battle of the Nathans has gone wrong because we've lost Nathan Foster due to a technical issue in the McLaren. So they've had to box the car, and, well, very sorry to hear that. But as we do see Andrew Fairley, well, right now he's under pressure from Helder Gonzalez, and he is the lead drivers. They are not leaving anything to chance as they make the way around, and we jump on board here with Helder Gonzalez for Track 6 Racing, and the Swiss driver right now really trying to make sure he doesn't have a near miss today. He wants to get some good points on the board, as that's a lovely run through turn number 8, really showing the cornering potential in the McLaren versus the Ford Mustang, and the American boat versus the British bandwagon. Well, as it makes its way around, well, the 230, they're getting a bit too close for comfort coming out of the carousel, and just missed time in his run slightly, and what that means is he had to back off the throttle when he really wanted to be going onto throttle, and there's the delta. Orbit Gonzalez there taking a bit of a risk, letting the car run out as wide as humanly possible to carry the speed up behind Fairley, but you can see there in the draft he's only matching speed, he's not really reeling them on in as they come through that right-hander. We do have multiple rookies into the pits, it should be pointed out. Luke Checker, Dan Oliver Fox and Darren Giacovelli are all into the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised if that's potentially to change tyres over if they decide to start on the wet, and they might be going to the dry tyre right now. And also, given the amount of time that's lapsed in this race, is Helder Gonzalez there? Ooh, goodness me, that's a bit of rally cross, and Helder Gonzalez in here and gets it back together, just taking a bit too much eagerness on the throttle pedal, and well, that almost coming back to bite him in the backside as he made his way out the final corner. But Gonzalez pushed it hard, and, well, to be fair, you've got to push it to the limit in order to find out exactly how much pace you've got. But we can see Luke Checker leaving the pit lane there, Dan Oliver Fox as well, so I think they're all swapping onto dry tyres, so this circuit is now definitely getting drier, at least on the racing line. Whilst all this is happening, with the fact that we have lost our pro leader, well, we have to have a new pro leader, and it's Xander Hill. There's only one problem for Xander. He has got behind him Daniel Shillcock, the winner at Interlagos in the pro class, and right now trying to make it back-to-back wins here. And we'll keep in mind that this is an open goal at this point because Ruben Berings is all the way down in 9th place in our pro drivers currently, and therefore you would imagine opportunity here really to score big and put a huge blow into Ruben Berings' championship, albeit drop scores do need to be considered, but it's still going to potentially be one of those situations whereby the Track 6 Racing team right now will be encouraging their drivers to absolutely go for a 1-2 here, although I can imagine that if we did see Chris de Halsoy get a little bit close to this. They might have a bit of an altercation as to who's going to be the winning driver of the two of them, given that both Shillcock and Halsoy both got rights to chase that championship down at this time. But we'll come to that question a bit later on, although I'm sure they'll have a plan in mind and they all have agreed prior to the race how exactly it's going to work out. I wouldn't imagine we are going to see any drama between the two of them. If I know the Tractix Racing team well, I know that they are one of the friendliest bunch between their drivers and they know exactly what the game plan is, and normally there's not a question of number one or number two driver, it's the team before individual drivers. But coming up towards the kink right now, Daniel Shillcock there or thereabouts, as on Hill just keeping him at bay for the time being. Further down in the rookie class, well, Jack Barker chasing after Brian Walker, but then you've got 16 seconds back before you find a rookie driver, and that is BJ Alvarez here, who right now has got the leaders coming up behind him. And well, the man who put it on pole in class, well, he's finding himself a long way down the order, but to be fair, he has taken a pit stop, and those pit stops are going to completely shuffle everybody around as well. So this is going to be one of the races, I reckon, where we're only really going to know where everybody is in the final 15 minutes, which, as corny as that sounds, because of the weather and because of the fact this circuit is drying, we will have had drivers who started on the wet who have got to go to dries early because the circuit is getting a lot faster quickly, and then you've got those who gambled on the dries at the start who survived it and now are really in the zone versus those who gambled on the dries at the start and got it wrong. And that's what we need to see, where everyone fits in together into this huge Road America jigsaw puzzle. But of course, that's what always keeps it interesting when you have mixed conditions, in the fact there's all different strategies here, there's all different setups on the cars, and all the drives intermingling together. It's almost as if somebody said, take a Rubik's Cube that's been sorted and completely shuffle it about, and now we've got to try and put all the colours back together here. And so Anthony, well, I'm looking under a lot of pressure from Casper Brotner as they make their way on out of the right-hand of turn number one. But as they do, well, we have had a change of second place. Pavel Dolezal has got back ahead of Simon Bamber off camera, and I believe there's been a rare mistake from Simon Bamber that's enabled that to happen. So we can see St. Anthony there, keeping Casper Brotner at bay, minus the front bumper. And well, the number 27 McLaren here proving that even with a bit of drag reduction, it's still going very well. In fact, drag increase, I should say, because that is going to increase the amount of drag over the front end, albeit it's weight reduction there, we can say, because he has shaved off a few kilograms of bodywork. But from our battling pro drivers, then to the very front of the field, there's Daniel Stasuk, and then here is Pavel Dolezal and Simon Bamber as they make their way on past us. And as they do, well, right now Dolezal ahead, at least for the moment, 5 tenths is the gap. James Powelson a further 4 seconds back, enjoying a good scrap with Niels Picard as Picard tries to go around the outside. Not quite able to do so as we look back from the rear of the Mercedes AMG and the Paceworks eSports team right now. Well, they're under a lot of pressure here, with Simon Bamber really splitting the pair of them after Powelson tried to let Dolezal through earlier on in the race, and Powelson battling with a lot of understeer there. Oh, that's interesting. We were wondering why perhaps Powelson's not been able to get back onto Bamber, and it does seem as though he's fighting with the front end of the car. Now, we do normally expect that with the Mercedes. Front engine rear wheel drive, natively this car is going to understeer, but not like that in a medium speed corner. But coming down towards turn of one, and Powelson having to go defensive there. Bacard looks one way then the other, and well, Powelson right now definitely being made to put this car each and every place over the circuit. He's making this Mercedes so wide that it's taking up all lanes. We're coming down towards turn number 3, and still Bacard close, but not close enough to try and force the move here. But now heading on towards turn number 5 and 6. Well, getting ready for that long downhill braking zone. You can see it's going to be a drag race again. Bacard close as they head down, but he's going to be on the outside. Now, Powelson will have to brake a little bit earlier here. I have to brake about 25 metres earlier to make sure he hits the apex on time. He's going to try and pull the corner out. A bit of rub between the two of them. A small rub, a bit of contact, but to be fair, it's all fair between them at the moment. And up the hill they go. Absolutely brilliant battle between these two. And Niels Picard right now just trying to help out. And it's interesting here because you really do have the number 2 drivers of their respective teams both trying to support their own championships and also trying to enable their teammates' championships, that battle for the elite win in the championship. Stasuk being from NJB Performance, much like Picard, and meanwhile Pavel Dolezal for Paceworks eSports, much like Powelson. But these two really right now keeping each other locked into this battle, and it actually prevents them from assisting their teammates, and it means that Simon Bamber has a free run of the battle to be on the podium. And for Bamber, as we mentioned earlier, he's got no role to play in terms of being a contender for the overall elite championship. His role to play is just how many points can he get, and can he get a good result. So therefore he becomes a thorn in everybody's side. But as we see Powelson having to go defensive again, Well, these two very even through the corners, but Bowser runs a little bit wide. Bakaj goes for the cut back, but now on the outside of turn number 13, he can't quite get there at the moment. Niels, as we jump aboard with the Mercedes driver, and we're not the Mercedes, the Mustang driver, I should say, and come through turn number 14 right now, doing everything right here, running, moving 3/10, lap after lap, corner after corner. It is absolutely poetry in motion between these two as the wiper goes on to get a little bit of the spray off the car and a bit of debris as well, but he is not going anywhere in terms of falling off of this battle, and Powson right now being worked to the limit as they head towards the midway point of this race. Through one, and Powson there, much better run through turn number 1 this time out. In fact, opens up the gap a little bit before they come down towards turn number 3, and that'll be important for him as they hit that right hand. A lot more apex curve being used now, and I think the confidence is growing between these two, and that's why we're starting to see that gap spread just a tiny bit. As meanwhile, further back, Casper Brockner still trying to find his way past Cy Anstey, and the McLaren is carrying on. It is not showing any signs of wilting under this pressure as they head up towards turn number 1. This is the battle for full place in Pro. Definitely still carrying on, as unfortunately in Pro class we have lost a couple of drivers. To the pits is one of them, Ruben Berings, and Malik Bass has had to retire from this race for a technical issue, and Nathan Foster as well. So the Pro class has lost quite a few drivers. Milton Tomlinson Dennis as well, we lost after lap number 1. He in the end will be taking 12th place in Elite, but it will be classified as a DNF. But all of our drivers here still pushed each other to the distance, as from them we come back to your Pro leaders, and Zana Hill and Daniel Shillcock. They have been exactly like this now for the best part of 4 laps, and will 2 equal machines and 2 drivers are proven to be equal, and it will all come down to who can get the upper hand on the other, if either one can. And well, I definitely caveat it if either one can, because these two right now, you can see how much the circuit has dried up. We are practically on a dry circuit at this point, so now it is going to come down to who's got the car that's been set up to evolve into these dry conditions, and which of our drivers here is feeling as though their car is in the right trim. Because remember, depending on how they set up the car, tyre temperatures are going to be a big factor. They will be on dry tyres. However, depending on how much air they've put into the tyres in terms of the pressures and that, they might be finding these tyres will be a bit more sensitive to tyre temperature than they would normally be. Also on top of that, got to consider the fact that some of our drivers might put a lot more rear wing on the car to keep the car stable in the rear end through the corners in the wet, but that rear wing is going to cost them an absolutely huge amount of time on the straight. So it'll cost them at least 3 to 4 miles an hour, depending on the length of the straight and how much extra rear wing they've put on. In the draft, here comes Shillcock, 2 tenths, then 1.5. He's getting closer and closer and closer. He's thinking about it here. He pulls slightly to the inside. Will he go for it? Shillcock is going to go all in here onto the wet line, but he's not going to find it there. A deceptive line, and then Shillcock has to back off. But he's definitely now really getting the itch, and Tobias Kruken is starting to get a bit close to this, and the Solpec Precision Racing driver, I think, is now thinking, okay, I need to clear this pair of squabbling pros, because the elite field is not too far away. Elite class for Tobias Kruken is only 6 seconds up the road, and it is not going too quickly either. Kruken, in fact, right now is matching the pace of the elite drivers. If not, he is the fastest. No, in fact, I double checked the times at the moment. Tobias Kruken is your fastest elite driver by 3 tenths over everybody at this time, based on the previous lap. The only exception being Andrew Fairley, who was a tenth slower than Kruken, but otherwise the average, Kruken is the fastest elite driver out there. He has not pitted like the rest of them. Nobody has pitted inside the elite top 9. So therefore, Kruken right now, if he can get there, he might be able to get involved. As Casper Brockner, well, as they make the way underneath the cheese board, he's going to be feeling quite cheddar here, or cheery, because he comes down towards turn 6, and it's all looking good there. Onto the brakes, and Cy Anstey in the end is not able to defend that place. Casper Brockner finally out-drags that McLaren to the apex. However, Cy Anstey takes a quick peek up the inside into turn 7, but knows to go there. It's not going to work out. But back to Powsland versus Niels Bakaj, and here we see Powsland going defensive again. Bakaj so close as he tries to go around the outside. He gets closer and closer every time they hit their corner. Bakaj this time with the cutback, but he's on that outside line again. What can he do? Can he cut it back a second time into turn 13? Yes, he goes for it, but Bakaj in the end gets a bit too close to the back of Powsland, but up the inside he goes. He throws his chips where they land, and as they make their way through the corner, it's too wide. Now it's going to be a drag race up the hill, but Austin William Campbell's here to play. He says, howdy boys, how's it going? And if they haven't looked in their rearview mirrors, they're going to suddenly see there's another V8 in contention here, and also Andrew Fairley's on the scene in the Fury Sim Sports. So we suddenly got 4 V8s all pushing each other along. Powsland goes defensive. Here comes Austin William Campbell looking around the outside. Bakaj, meanwhile, is going to go defense on the inside versus William Campbell. The Effect Simulation drivers haven't come here just to sit around and play. They make their way down towards turn number 3. They're serious Effect Simulations. They're going to be an absolute disruptive force in this battle, and now William Campbell trying to go around the outside. Can he get it done? No, he can't. He tucks back in as they head on out up towards turn number 6, and we'll pound the way onwards there. We have a slight intermittent disconnection, but we come back, and we're in good time too. We don't want to see any more like that as they power their way alongwards. All these drivers continue to push each other onwards, and Andrew Fairley there right now up the inside. The Fury Cinesport driver now sees his opportunity to go in when the NJP Performance, in fact, I do apologise there, I'm thinking of another driver, and as they come on out, the NJP Performance driver goes up the inside, and well, can he get this done versus Austin William Campbell? Yes, he can, but William Campbell thinks about the cutback, can't quite find it there, and that calms things down for a brief moment. I say a brief moment because Austin William Campbell, if I know him, he will be coming back at this as quickly as they go. Indeed, instant coffee's not fast enough for this man. In the 555s, he comes out the left-hander and in towards the right, and a very respectful driver as well is the Effect Simulations driver, albeit he's had his rivalries in GT3 seasons of past, and indeed as he roars his way on out there, coming onwards now to the back stretch, well, not quite close enough to look for a move, but absolutely giving it everything he can in order to be able to try and find a way through. But at this point at least, things will settle down for a brief moment, but goodness me, what an absolutely stellar battle there between Bacard, Fairley and William Campbell and James Powelson, all of them fighting for fourth place in elite and overall, and nobody pulling any punches there. A great respectful racing between all of them as they carry on. Now, with all this, we have had a bit of drama further down, but I don't want to cut away right now from this. So our cameramen are going to stay transfixed for a brief moment. We do have some drama to cover as we get towards the halfway point of this race. We now are coming to the end of the opening 30 minutes as we go on to lap number 15. And, well, Austin William Campbell this time looking around the outside of Andrew Fairley. Fairley was the man who was on the attack previous lap, but this round of the race circuit, he's now going to go on the defensive. Can he prove himself to be as good on the defense as he can on the offense? The answer is that's going to get very close and contentious. In the end, they just about give each other enough room to breathe. My good Lord, I thought that was going to end in tears. And I think that required William Campbell to back out slightly. And for Andrew Fairley, in the end, also to lift off the throttle as they'll be scoring each other to the barriers at turn number 2. But they've both about survived that, and now William Campbell's going to come back again. He is absolutely relentless here. Well, they do say in life there are 3 things that are inevitable: death, taxes, and that William Campbell is going to try and get that place off of you. But as they come down in towards turn number 6, he's not going to quite get it this time as he goes a bit deep into the corner and gives Andrew Fairley a bit of a nudge along to say, giddy up, get a move on, because as they head in towards turn number 7, they are losing up Bacard and James Powelson. The gap now is 2 seconds, but what a battle between them, no doubt about it. Looking a bit further down the order, Hendrik Zilka trying to make a bit more of progress up the orders. He looks like the inside there, second place rookie driver, Jordan Jones. That's going to be a classic move up the inside. Can he get it to stick down towards 3? The answer is going to be yes. The Acura driver is there comfortably. Jones now will back off and tuck back in as we have got into the pit lane. Rob Wins and Sean Cranleigh-Swash. Pit stop season is definitely now a go, and as all drivers make their way into the pits, Jordan Jones trying to get on behind. But we need to take a look back. A bit of an instance only happened moments ago, and Daniel Shillcock has fallen away from Zander Hill in the battle for the lead of the Pro class. But what exactly happened to cause that? Well, here is a replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this was only back on lap number 14 as they made the way down to the braking zone. Well, it was Shillcock trying to battle, turned in to find Tobias Kruken there on his inside. Kruken had made it clear he was going to go for the move to be fair to Kruken, but in the end, that was how it fell for the pair of them, and it hasn't worked out, particularly there for Daniel Shillcock. Meanwhile, for Casper Brotner, we take a look back at the move he made versus Cy Anthony for 17th overall. Here's the replay of that from earlier on. And, well, this was Cy Anthony running out a bit wide and rejoining. And in the end, Casper Brotner, well, he had the drag race all the way down. These two have been fighting for the best part of 9 laps. They were still fighting as they made the way down the straight, but in the end, it was a drag race. And with the grass on the car's tyres, well, Cy Anthony just not having enough in the end to be able to stay with his rival. Well, back to live pitch as we go, ladies and gentlemen. There's plenty more racing to come. And as we come on back, well, the laps continue to trickle, and as they do, time ticks away as well. But which of our drivers here right now will be coming into the pits sooner rather than later? Well, we've got a lot of drivers who have come into the pits as of just now. We can see that Tobias Kruken, Niels Bacard, Austin William Campbell and Helder Gonzalez, they've all come on in. Alistair Murray's also in from the lead of rookie as he makes his way on down pit row, albeit the camera not quite actually catching him until there we find him up on the cherry picker camera, and as he makes his way on down, well, that is going to be a standard stop. Jordan Jones will go on to lead a lap at least of the rookie class. He'll be happy with that. But looking to Ryan Walker, who finds himself behind Daniel Pays. These two have both taken their pit stops, So therefore, this is a race to the end now between them. And Ryan Walker here trying to salvage something out of this one at the close, given the fact it all started so well, but it went backwards at turn number 8, only 6 laps in. And now the 3M Altitude Esports driver is trying to turn things forward rather than backwards. But we will see what he's going to be able to do from there. But as they continue to marshal the way along, all these drivers right now definitely keeping each other as honest as humanly possible. And this race is not over yet. And I say that not just to keep you entertained, but also for the simple fact that now with what will be more stable conditions, we're going to see our drivers really get the hammer down here for the remainder of the distance. Timing wise, we have 26.5 minutes left on the clock, so that is going to be 13 laps of racing if my mental mathematics is correct, because our leader, Daniel Stasuk, makes his way on down, and as he does so, he came into the pits by a 5-second lead, and I think right now he will be looking to try and expand that lead a bit more before the end of the pit stop window, and indeed into that remaining distance. So there you can see he's going to pull up right at the end of the pit lane. He gets the preferential treatment there, being right down towards the front, and angles the car for the pit exit immediately as all of our leaders finally bring their races to a standstill. They all decide to take a breather at the same time. Nobody wanted to go for the undercut strategy there for the risk of coming out into traffic, and also the risk of coming out onto a less dry circuit compared to what it will be at the end of the maximum possible stint. Nathan Anstis makes his way on down, as does Zander Hill behind him. Both our AM leader and our pro leader both doing a fantastic job. But Daniel Stasuk leaves the pit lane, and as he does so, well, there comes Pavel Dolezal, and the gap between the two of them now, well, it was 5 seconds coming into the pits. The gap now is standing at still 5.5 seconds, so half a second gained there for Daniel Stasuk in the pit lane. He really is the master of pit stops, is the NJP Performance driver. And Dolezal and Simon Bamber, will they stay separated here? They're separated by 1.3 seconds after the first couple of corners. So I think now for Simon Bamber, he's going to have to try and dig a little bit deeper here to put an ace up his sleeve and go on the attack for the runner-up spot. Nathan Anstis meanwhile being passed there by Tobias Kruken, and Kruken in fact gaining a lot of time. As a result of his undercut strategy, he's had to find his way through as the Solpec Precision racing driver, but still going through as quickly as he can, and as a result of that, moving forward here as Kruken makes his way up towards turn number 6. Of course, he does have a 6-second gap to Helder Gonzalez, but as we mentioned earlier, at least before he made his pit stop, he was the fastest elite driver on circuit. Again, it may be the situation whereby he has put plenty more fuel in the car now, because he might have been drinking a lot of fuel. In terms of his relative pit stop time, he did take 2 seconds longer in the pit lane compared to Pavel Dolezal and Daniel Stasuk, and that may explain that he's had to put in a couple more litres of fuel in order to be able to make sure he gets to the finish line. However, for Tobias Kruken, when you're in a situation whereby you've had an incident, it's put you a long way down the order, you may as well go for it. Now, please excuse my manners, because we've been talking a lot about what's happening at the front of the field over on the elite class. We haven't really been talking about the stories here in the AM and pro class as well. Well, let's hold the phone there as well, because that in pro class is Daniel Shillcock going around the outside of Zander Hill coming through. One is the carousel there, and into lead of pro goes Shillcock. A lovely move there, and well, can he hold on to it now is the question, because these two were close together earlier on, but now they've reaffirmed their positions, and Daniel Shillcock has returned afterwards. That moment he had earlier on between himself and Tobias Kruken gets it done, and well, from him Simon Oldfield is 11 seconds back, and then you have your third place pro driver Krista Halsoy, who when he hears over the radio that his teammate is now leading, that is only going to encourage the Corvette driver to push a little bit harder for Track 6 Racing and see if they can make it a 1-2, but he will have to close down a 20-second gap, and that's not going to be easy unless Shillcock and Hill absolutely fight all the way through the remainder of the race and take plenty of time out of each other. But we'll have to wait and see whether that could happen at all or not. Further behind, what we were going to talk about a little bit is this growing battle for third place in the AM class, because we do have right now Rob Windsor and Sean Cranleigh-Swash together, and the Pigeon Racer driving the Ford Mustang here tucked in behind the McLaren from UK Sim Racing. And well, Windsor, who started all the way down in 6th place in class, he has gradually picked his way through the field as he picks his way to the outside of turn number 14, making a little bit of a moment there, albeit he'll get away with that now. That grass is drying a little bit, albeit I would not want to put all 4 tyres on the grass there, because it will still feel like swampland the deeper you go into it. But here we can see Sean Cranleigh-Swash looking up the inside. It's a drag race, albeit that Ford Mustang, look at the legs on it as they head into turn number 1, and right now that is going to be a relatively straightforward move. A little bit of a wobble there off of Apex, a little bit of oversteer off the curve of Sean Cranleigh-Swash, but the way the Mustang in the end settling down and takes third place back for now. However, now now he's got to try and outrun that McLaren behind. And well, for Rob Windsor, how close can he get? The gap on the exit of the corner was 2 tenths. It is coming down little by little, now down to 1.5 tenths here. However, still Sean Cranleigh-Swash will be absolutely hustling the car along. Puts in the middle of the road. Rob Windsor thinks about trying to cut back, trying to send it around to the inside on the switch. But in the end, Sean Cranleigh-Swash will parking the car there and simply saying, if you do, you'll take the pair of us out and I'll see you in the steward's room after the race. But through the left and into the right of turn 7 and 8 they go. And Cranleigh-Swash right now really demonstrating that to become a champion, all you've got to do is make sure you're as consistent as humanly possible. And he won't take the championship crown after today. Indeed, it's looking as though things are going to go all the way to the white in the AM class. But Sean Cranleigh-Swash's consistency with regards to podium finishes this season has been his ace in hand, where he's absolutely made it more podiums than anybody else in AM. But we're on his way out of turn at number 10 and in towards 11 at the King. Well, Windsor and Casper Brockner are tucked in behind at the moment at least. But from all of that, we need to take a look back at how Daniel Shillcock took the lead of Pro off of Xander Hill. And, well, we will very shortly do so as we see Casper Brockner here deciding that he's now going to try and intervene in this AM battle. He goes all in there, almost misses brake mark and almost taking a little bit of Sean Cranleigh-Swash as a souvenir into Canada Corner. Well, definitely that would have taken Sean Cranleigh-Swash a bit further to home territory, as I believe he does hail from Canada, or at least he flies the Canadian flag when he races some days. I'm sure if he's tuning in right now, he'll be able to clarify what the story is behind that, whether he was born there or not. But right now, well, he's brought himself into a mistake, because that is Casper Brockner going around, going out of turn number 14, rear of the car, let's go, and the front bumper goes with it, albeit rematerialises for a brief moment. But Casper Brockner there a bit too eager with the throttle pedal, and the car going completely sideways on a round. But I think he will just about get away with that with the damage he's picked up. Understandably, however, that car now is going to be feeling a bit less comfortable, but he's not coming to the pits. Alistair Murray, meanwhile, wastes no time, does the rookie leader. And looking around the outside, and Casper Brockner tucks back in there as Alistair Murray right now just trying to carry on here for the rookie win by 7.3 seconds over Jordan Jones, who is on course for one of his best performances of the season if this finishes as it currently stands, and indeed returning to the form we saw earlier on in the season, where Jones definitely on his debut demonstrated he had a lot of race pace, but in the end things did not quite click together. However, it's clicking together right now for the number 58 Porsche 992 driver, make no mistake. Coming back, meanwhile, to the Pro drivers, the Pro lead battle, which we were going to get a replay of how it got into the hands of Daniel Shillcock, but I think right now, instead of what we're going to do is get a rematch here between Shillcock and Xander Hill, because Hill is back on the charge here as we jump on board with the 276 driver. And, well, I better have a quick drink of water before this all gets out of hand, ladies and gentlemen, in a good way, however. Right, water had, and now as our drivers make the way out to Canada Bend, well, Hill there in a much better approach to the apex, and then fighting with power oversteer. Shillcock, meanwhile, fighting with understeer and entry and getting a really good turn through the remainder of the corner. So these two, you can understand, they're really going at it, as Hill there having to really sawtooth at the steering wheel to fight with the understeer. So it seems as though the medium speed corners, the TE Sim Sport McLaren is not set up to run comfortably in dirty air there. It really seems to lose out. Meanwhile, in the low speed corners, when it has to go down to second gear, or what would be the very bottom end of third gear, the TE Simsport car's got the better control. Conversely, Shillcock with clear air. As soon as you go into a medium speed corner here, he seems to absolutely dance away. But low speed corners seems to be the bane of Shillcock's car today. And, well, that's intriguing, because we do have an equal mix of those two styles of corners around here, and that is making it very close between them as they pound their way onwards. But down at the next stretch they go, and can Hill get any closer this time? And the answer is going to be little by little, but I don't think it's enough. As he tiptoes his way forward, thinks about the inside here. Does he go for it? Yes, he does. No, he doesn't in the end. He tries to put the mental pressure on, but Shillcock doesn't fall for it in the end, and Hill falls back to the racing line just in time, but that would have lent very heavily onto the brakes, and now he's going to have to wait a little bit longer, because the car will definitely be feeling that one. As we jump from the off-board there and watch Hill and Shillcock from a third-person perspective carry on, but brilliant racing between these two and pushing each other to the absolute limit, as we do have the best part of 18 minutes still left on the clock, plus a final lap. But these drivers making their way around, looking back to Nathan Scott. Meanwhile, well, here's a man who's been up, down, he's been around, and is now making his way back up the field. Currently 7th in the Pro class, chasing after Ruben Berings, and the Empire Motorsport car that went around at turn number 6 in the early stage of the race is right now looking good. However, we do have multiple pit stops occurring for Hendrik Zilkat, Jack Barker, and also, I believe, for Rob Windsor is coming again, and also for Simon Oldfield. Now, a lot of these drivers, I don't have the lap numbers available to me when they first pitted, I'm wondering whether they pitted off of a wet tyre in the early stages of the race, and therefore they've got to make a second pit stop because they need the fuel now to take them the distance. So therefore, and I think Sky King or Tobias Ku can have the same thought as what I've just had in the commentary with at the same time. Well, they do say great minds think alike. Well, I'm going to tip my head there to the great mind behind the Solpec Precision Racing Mercedes. And, well, I think there it is the challenge whereby we are seeing some drivers who pitted early essentially having to come in for a second stop. The only other thing I can imagine here is that perhaps some drivers are wary of the fact there might be an extra lap in the distance, because we saw at Interlagos we got 40 laps when a lot of drivers had prepared for 39 laps. So there was fuel saving over the last couple of laps, and a number of cars didn't actually make it to the finish line. They didn't get up the hill from Junsao Corda. Some that did, however, just rolled to the finish line in rather comical fashion, albeit the drivers didn't get in the points they wanted, but not the way they wanted it to work out. But as we do see the clarification, and thank you, Sean, for explaining the story there. So Canadian mother and English father, and that's why he flies the Canadian flag on the car. And indeed, in series he races in commemoration of his mother. Well, as the strong stay nose to tail together, Daniel Shillcock and Underhill right now. There is nothing between them, and we will have to see what our 276 driver can find to beat the 270 as they head in towards turn number 7 for the 21st time of asking. But as they weave and wind their way on through, Ryan Walker looking to pick up another place here, albeit it'll be overall. It won't be in pro class. It'll be a battle with the AM class 4th place driver of Daniel Pays. And will these two continue to push each other on at this time? And it does seem as though the BMW M4, the rather beastly German machine here, just breaking it away a little bit from that Ford Mustang as they come underneath the cheese gantry. And Ryan Walker just watching on as much as he possibly can at this time. Albeit, I mean, he'd love to make the move, but he does have to keep in mind that he does have a 24-second gap to Darren Roquette. So at this point, it really is about putting the laps together and just seeing if he can improve on some lap times. From them, however, we look to Jack Barker and Hendrik Zilka, both drivers who've had a dismal day of the races at Road America compared to what they like, both in the Acura NSX Evo. And, well, this definitely has proven to be a car, at least for Jack Barker this season, that has not wanted to be as obliging as it did in Season 14, nor, of course, in the Multi-Class League Season 3, where he really was one of the stars in the GT3 class. But here today, it's really come back to bite him once again in the early stages. And, well, Sir Bottle Job, as his nickname to a few, well, he's not trying to bottle this moment as he looks to go around the outside here of his rival, but coming down towards the braking zone. Well, Hendrik Zilka there is not going to fight it too hard. I think he's going to be thinking about the bigger picture as Barker there takes a bit of gravel into the braking zone, but he gets it stopped just in time. But I think he would have had his heart in his chest there for a brief moment because the car almost rolled away from him, and a little bit of wet gravel on those right-hand side tyres would just carried his momentum forward slightly more. But move made there by Jack Barker, now up into 8th place in the AM class and salvaging something out of this as best he possibly can. As we do say hello there to Brian Alvarez, or I believe that's BJ Alvarez in the YouTube chat. And right now he's running in 2nd place in rookie. Hold up a second. Alistair Murray, what on earth has happened to the man who was comfortably leading in rookie? This has gone under the radar because BJ Alvarez right now 2nd place in rookie, and Jordan Jones is happily leading proceedings here in the rookie class, and he's practically got an entire lap's worth of time between himself and the rest of the field. This is a complete table turner, and we can find out very quickly because we've got a replay lined up, ladies and gentlemen, and here's what happened to Alistair Murray. It was back on lap number 19. So it was only about 6 or 7 minutes ago, but we finally found out the story, and here we go to that story. So this was Alistair Murray at the time going into the kink, made his way through the right-hander. Oh, goodness me, car in front letting it go. Hendricks, they all came together. My good Lord. What on earth triggered that off? Now, was there contact between the Mercedes and Casper Brotner onto the rear of Alistair Murray's car? Can we get a replay of that from Casper Brotner's perspective? We will see if we can. Well, I don't think we can. Can we look to the rear here and see what happened? Oh, right, now we can tell what happened. You can hear it. You don't see what he does, but you can hear what he does. So Alistair Murray there reacting to what happened in front of him for Hendrik Zilka, and that explains it. If we can get the onboard with Casper Brotner, yes, we can. Here was the onboard. Watch it from his perspective and watch the brake lights on Murray's car. Brake lights went on there, and Casper Brotner in the end not reacting in time to it. I think there were two very different interpretations of what was going to happen there. With the fact I think Casper Brotner thought they were going to avoid the wayward Acura. Meanwhile, Alistair Murray playing it cautiously, and the two of them in the end ended up in tears. Back to your live racing we go. Goodness me, what a huge blow to their respective races. Well, as we come back, Jordan Jones right now, a bit of on-board time there as he lets Simon Oldfield on past him. But that was definitely a story there with regards to how everything's changed up between our competitors in the rookie class, and it definitely has repercussions. But as all the drivers continue on through, we still do have plenty of time left in this race. 12 minutes still on the clock here, and with that, as we do see our rookie leader carrying on, he must be absolutely smiling to himself right now, albeit I can imagine he's also probably saying to himself, Jordan, don't take anything for granted at this point, get to the end of this race, because it is an absolute race of attrition here, and we've seen some huge incidents so far today, and with the Hendrik Zilka, Alistair Murray and Casper Brotner one being another example of that. But as the driver's coming around, we say hello to Xander Hill in the YouTube chat. And, well, Daniel Shillcock here right now, 2.5 seconds ahead of Xander Hill as the two pro drivers continue to push each other onwards. And, well, I think Zilka just losing at his own accord in that instant on the exit curb coming out of the kink. And once you go there, you don't come back from it. Whether it's in the simulator or in real life racing, Road America does not forgive when you get it wrong, because whilst it does have plenty of grass and has runoff areas, those runoff areas are not too big. And well, a little bit of trivia for you with regards to Road America. Ever since its opening, if I remember correctly, in 1955, this is one of a very limited number of circuits in the world whose road layout has not changed over its history. That means the circuit that they're racing on here today, the configuration of 4.04 miles, it has been that way since day one of opening. Road America really is as old school as they come. And also, the other things about this circuit, unlike a lot of circuits you'll find in the world, as a spectator, you can pitch up practically anywhere circuit side, because there are no major grandstands around here all the way around the circuit. Instead, the idea is you just pitch up wherever you can near the circuit side and you get a great view of whatever's going on. And that was the intention when this circuit was built all those years ago. The idea being a circuit that's readily accessible, and no matter where you go as a spectator, you'll be able to see a part of Road America. And that's why it's such a popular circuit and why it's visited year in, year out by the likes of IMSA, to name one of many a series that comes here. Well, but from a little bit of pub quiz trivia, so I'm trying to carry on around right now. Well, on lap number 24, what's the stories we wait to see unfold? Well, in elite class, everything seems to have now spread out a little bit, with Daniel Stasuk leading by 4.1 seconds over Pavel Dolezal, and then you have a further 3 seconds back before you get to Simon Bamber, who rounds up your top three, but then James Powsland in fourth place. Well, definitely falling away from the top three here, but everyone now seemingly, I think, has found their pace, has found their trim, and because the circuit has dried up and the sun is coming out in full force, we are now starting to see exactly who perhaps hoped the dry conditions would eventually come versus who banked on the wet setup and the circuit was not going to get as comfortable all the way over the race distance. Definitely a bit of a gamble there for many a driver. We do have Darian Giacovelli back into the pit lane, and I believe for Darian that is now going to be a third pit stop. Yes, it is, and that is going to be, I think, to repair the car. I think there's been some damage on the car, albeit can't confirm that. Giacovelli definitely back into the pits again. Housen in fourth ahead of Niels Bocage, who has broken away from teammate Andrew Fairley. 1.2 seconds is the gap as these two continue to push each other onwards. A new personal best there from Andrew Fairley, a 202.55. And as he comes around here, a big run wide on the gravel there. That run wide would have been Ruben Berings, who's decided to take a little bit of gravel with him as a souvenir. In fact, no, it's not Ruben Berings. Yes, it is Ruben Berings. Correct me again if I'm wrong. But the Porsche driver there having a big run wide coming out to turn number one, and will brings it back together. A bit of a frustrating one for the Berings family today. Both Ruben and Brett not having a happy day in the office. Brett's Berings you can see just behind there, 4 laps behind his brother. But for Ruben Berings, of course, this 7th place, it still guarantees some points. It just means that championship title is going to go all the way to Silverstone at least, if not the season finale at the Nürburgring. And we will wait and see exactly how that continues when we do go to the United Kingdom for round number 9. But for Ruben Berings, definitely a little bit of a reality check this one after the results he has had, and that scrap of course at Interlagos between himself and Daniel Shillcock. In a way, a bit of a check-up in terms of just making sure that he's enjoying the battling as well as trying to run away with things. But championship campaigns, they won over 10 rounds in GT3 League, not 7, not 8, and well, our drivers definitely finding that out today up and down the field. However, in speaking of a championship that is almost nearing wrap-up at this point, Daniel Stasuk, if he takes this win today and takes his 6th win of the season, it will mean at Silverstone he can seal the deal with a round to spare, and it would require effectively for Pavel Dolezal to win the race and get a perfect score at Silverstone, and for Daniel Stasuk to have an absolute nightmare of a day if my mathematics is correct. The 733 driver here really right now controlling his own destiny at this point, and he can just afford to finish behind Dolezal to see this championship out at this point if he so desires. However, knowing him, and indeed knowing all our competitors in Elite, nobody is going to want to sit on their laurels. They're all going to want to go the distance and make sure every win comes their way. Indeed, no real battles to talk of now. Xander Hill behind Nathan Anstis at this point. Daniel Shillcock is only a further 2 seconds up the road. Therefore, Hill is still trying to come back here and look for an opportunity to get involved. They've definitely had a brilliant ding-dong scrap between them so far, but the two McLaren drivers here, at least for a moment, are taking a bit of a breather. And, well, they've had 2 battles so far. It really feels as though this is one of those classic modern-day boxing matches where you have the initial bout, then you have the second bout where the other boxer has won it, and now we're waiting for the final rematch to seal the deal in terms of who's going to be the winner and who's going to be the loser. Albeit, unlike boxing, these two not emerging from this race at Road America with a absolutely huge paycheck, albeit I think the win is going to feel as though it's a paycheck in its own right at this point. But still, we're going to put a bit of a jab towards all the boxing analogies at this point, because otherwise they'll take us out the ring. And with Xander Hill tucking into the tyre Nathan Anstis, he'll be hoping that the AM leader is able to pull him along. And speaking of Nathan Anstis, well, what a controlled race this has been. The man who starts on the overall pole position made a miracle happen in the changeable conditions of the circuit in qualifying. And right now, Nathan Anstis 9, he doesn't need to fight Hill for this place on the road. He is going to try and have a little bit of fun with him as they go toe-to-toe up the hill in towards turn number 7, but at the same time I think he'll also be aware of the fact that he doesn't need to let this get messy at all. And right now Nathan Anstis keeping Hill at bay, and Xander Hill understandably not too happy about this. I think he's feeling at this point, just let me go, there's no value in doing so. Well, under braking into turn 8 they come, and as they do, Nathan Anstis still fighting with Xander Hill, and this is only going to really hurt Xander Hill's ability to close up, because the gap to Daniel Shillcock is now 3.4 seconds. It is expanding, is that gap, more and more as the corners are turned. So Hill, I think at this point, will now cursing under his breath a little bit, because he'll feel as though Nathan Anstis here, as much as he's enjoying battling, I think this is the battle he doesn't want to have right now, you can understand. But there's nothing to say in the rules that drivers of 2 different classes don't have to fight each other. It's up to the drivers. And well, our AM driver here definitely wants to take the experience from a pro driver to fight with them. But of course, he is putting a lot on the line, is Nathan Anstis. Not because Xander Hill's going to potentially knock him off the road, but it's always the risk when you're battling with somebody of another class. When you've got nothing to lose and that driver has got something to lose, that of course the stakes get higher and higher as nerves start to get frayed. But we will see what happens between them over the distance as Xander Hill now gets back into the tow here as they head up the hill. So on to that number 27 they go, and Hill's so close at this point, and well, so close he's going to peel out nice and early here, halfway down the start finish straight. I think at this point Xander's now going to put the hammer down here and simply say, right, this is going to go one of 2 ways here, and both of them are coming my way, and immediately goes up the inside, glides the apex, and well, gets that move done. Nathan Anstis tucks in and well, decides to park up behind there, so he almost takes a bit of grass with him, does Nathan Anstis, and that's what we mean. I think just looking at the rear of that McLaren a bit too closely and just dipping the rear left tyre, but gets away with it that time. But as they make their way onwards, and I could already see there Niel Kenyon saying Nathan for elite indeed with that pole lap and also his great performance. Well, further down the order, let's talk a little bit about the man in the very colourful livery machine here. It's Simon Oldfield, and indeed one of the most colourful cars I've seen in a long time on this grid. But as he comes in towards and turn number 12 at Canada Corner. Well, kaboom, it says on the side in comic book format. And right now, there's nothing comical about his race. He's looking for 5th place in AM class here, and he's had a solid drive versus the likes of Rob Windsor and Niel Kenyon. And for Simon Oldfield at this point, getting a 5th place, a top 5, there's going to be some good points on the board. Albeit, I think he would hope that one day he can get onto that podium, but we've seen how contentious it has been for podiums in the AM class this season, where there have been a lot of podium variety round after round. So therefore, for Oldfield just getting a top 5, that's going to feel as though that's gold dust. Anything beyond that, that is going to feel even rarer. That will be the equivalent of a pot of gold at the end of the magical rainbow. But not to pun the Irish or anything to do with leprechauns there, just a simple reason, the rarity and, well, the pot of gold being mythical here, and indeed podiums for a number of drivers in the AM class being mythical this season, because that is how high the calibre of the machinery has been. But past the Corvette Caval they go, and down towards turn 6. Nothing for Oldwood at this time in terms of any further progress, as we do look through Ruben Berings. He starts in behind Niel Kenyon and is hoping that perhaps he can make one more overall place before this is done. Into the pits, meanwhile, has come Helder Gonzalez, and he at the time was running in 7th place overall in an elite. Tobias Kruken will take the place off of him. So Gonzalez here, I think, making his way on down. Does he come to a standstill? Well, the body language of the car doesn't say so at the moment, and he's not pulled all the way over. So if so, well, I think that's a drive-through penalty. That will be for instant points. And for Helder Gonzalez, that is going to be a frustrating one, because that essentially means that now he'll be losing at some key points. He'll lose some more overall places as well, but he won't be losing out anything more other than to Tobias Kruken. So for Helder Gonzalez, a bit of a coming back down to terra firma there with 2 minutes left on the clock. And well, now knowing that he's ready in 8th in elite and he'll be relegated there into the remainder of the race. Hold up a second. We've had a bit of drama here. That is now Andrew Fairley, who comes back alive, and as he does so, what he finds there, that is going to be the Venari Racing Acura of Hendrik Zilka tucking in behind, but of course a lap down will not go for the move, but Andrew Fairley having a bit of a moment. Oh, goodness me, as soon as I say that, it then goes wrong for Hendrik Zilka as well. It goes around at turn number 8, and well, mesmerised there by Andrew Fairley's spin. He has a spin of his own there, coming through turn number 8. I suspect in reality that's just getting the throttle down a bit too soon, and some very heavily worn tyres, but a very big mistake there right at the close of the race. He won't lose an overall place, but what he will lose there is some momentum and some confidence in the car with not long left in the race. But as our leader heads towards the timeline, we go on to lap number 29, and with a minute left on the clock, we are going to only have one more lap. And Daniel Stasuk right now, well, he knows that around the corner is another major result for NJB Performance, and if he wraps this one into the contention, ladies and gentlemen, well, he'll know at Silverstone all he's got to do is turn up there and pick up some points, and at Silverstone he will be your elite champion with a round to spare. But Daniel Stasuk right now is on course for a landmark result. Pavel Dolezal is matching him, if not surpassing him for pace, but at this point, for the Paceworks Esports driver, he's too far back and needs some magic to happen. Simon Bamber, meanwhile, 4.5 seconds back. You can see him there in the rear of the picture very shortly. The headlights fully on, flashing them non-stop there. And I think just trying to do anything he can to try and get a bit closer, but not quite working out. In the Pro Class, Daniel Shillcock here, and a very crowded start-finish straight. Flashes lights there. He wants to get this traffic out of the way as Darren Giacovelli pulls off race 9 in order to bleed a bit of extra speed. Well, Shillcock there, your pro leader, but Xander Hill 2 seconds back and is trying to charge back at him. And then we do have behind them your AM leader of Nathan Anstis, who's come to be in a postcode of his own. Then we do have Krista Halsoy, your 3rd place pro driver, as he makes his way on around, as our clock does strike what is there the full hour. So now we are going to see that checker flag come the end of this next lap. But all of our drivers here right now just looking to carry on as Darren Norquette getting a bit close there to Krista Halsoy, but he is still a bit of time away. He's not close enough at the moment, but he's pushing as much as he can. Pulls another attempt. They're coming out of turn 3. We'll keep a distant eye on that. In the remainder of the AM podium places, Sean Cranleigh-Swash is holding a comfortable 2nd place, 12 seconds clear of Darren Sharples. We see the old dudes in cars driver there. And as for rookie, well, Jordan Jones is going to be the only rookie to go onto a 29th tour of the circuit as he comes out of the final quarter, because he does have almost 2 minutes over BJ Alvarez. And then in 3rd place, that class, it will be Dan Oliver Fox. But from our rookie leader, we come to our elite leader. And ladies and gentlemen, get ready to give him a round of applause, because it has been another phenomenal drive today, and for Daniel Stasuk, it is going to be an elite win, his 6th of the season, ahead of Pavel Dolezal, and Simon Bamber will wrap up the elite and overall top 3 as they all head to that line, with Simon Bamber there fighting as hard as he could. He tried to get in everyone's way today, but he couldn't quite bring down the top 2. In 4th place, it'll be James Powelson there for Paceworks Esports, ahead of Niels Kenyon, who charged on hard in the early stage of the race. Andrew Fairley will then shortly come over the brow of the hill, and as he does, he will take 6th place, ahead of Tobias Kruken by 2.6 seconds for not Paceworks Esports, for Solpec Precision Racing. And then it will be a bit of time before we have back-to-back victories in the Pro Class for Daniel Shillcock, who in the end takes the win in the class by 2 seconds over Xander Hill for TE Sim Sport. Nathan Anstis with the drive of the round, it could be said, after that incredible overall pole position, takes the AM win there, an incredible drive for him, head of Helder Gonzalez. And then we do have Krista Halsoy, who rounds off the pro podium by a second over Darren Orkett right at the close there. The Racing Forces driver not having enough to bring down the Tactics Racing driver. Austin William Campbell will take 14th overall there as he heads towards the line, and then it will be Sean Cranleigh-Swash who leaps his way over the rise to take another second place spot on the podium for Pigeon Racing. And indeed, he's making a collection of these podiums right now, and that's even more important points to his championship charge, with Darren Sharples rounding off there the podium in a solid third place in the 777. But then we've got a bit of time before we have our last lead lap finishers, ladies and gentlemen, as we do see Nathan Scott there in the Empire Motorsport machine, who started from the very back of the field. It all went backwards at the very start of the race as well, but credit where it's due. 5th place in pro. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and Nathan Scott finishing it well in this one. There'll be a further 8 seconds before we do get to Daniel Pays, who in the end will bring his BMW M4 for Old Dudes in Cars home in 4th place in the AM class. Alberto Gravilli right behind him, and then give this man a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, taking the rookie win, the only rookie to do a 29th lap. Well done to him. That is Jordan Lee Jones, and an incredible effort there for our number 58 driver, and with it for Jordan, his first win of the season. Congratulations to him. He's going to be absolutely ecstatic about that. He is the last survivor of the rookie class in terms on that lead lap. BJ Alvarez did take second a lap down, and 2 laps down for Dan Oliver Fox, and credit where it's due for Dan Oliver Fox. I believe for the Ferrari driver, that is his first podium of the season with 3rd place, so well done to him. It's an absolutely brilliant day for a good number of drivers here at Road America, no doubt about it. And as we do look to the scenic view, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here we go. So after 60 minutes, just about survival and adapting to conditions as it was about outright pace, overall, Daniel Stasuk, your winner for NJB Performance here at Road America by 2.5 seconds over Paceworks Esports' Pavel Dolezal. Your top 3 was completed by Simon Bamber for Effect Simulations Carbon, an absolutely deserved podium for all 3 drivers. Well done to them, and one accurate ahead of 2 Mercedes. But the female Mercedes machines continues with James Powell in 4th there for Paceworks Esports, who in the end didn't have the pace to battle back onto the podium. However, he did have the pace to keep the NJP Performance pair of Niels Bacage and Andrew Fairley behind in an absolute titanic battle between them, with Tobias Kruken in the end recovering well for 7th place for Solpet Precision Racing. Daniel Shillcock, your pro winner, took 8th place there for Tactics Racing and makes it 2 in a row. Well done to him in the McLaren, ahead of fellow McLaren driver for Tiki Sinsport, Xander Hill, who in the end they went for 3 bouts, and it was Daniel Shillcock who came away victorious. Nathan Anstis took the win in the AM class, just behind after that pole position overall in qualifying, where he was always going to let the elites and some of the pros go, but in the end that 10th place overall, an absolutely brilliant drive there for the UK Sim Racing Hill driver, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that performance, because I do believe that win for Nathan Anstis being only his 3rd of the season so far, albeit 2nd on the road, because keep in mind the first win at Fuji would have been credited to him after we saw Brett Berings moved up into the pro class, so he's now made it a 2nd on the road. Helder Gonzalez was 11th ahead of Krista Halsaway, who completed your pro podium there for Tactics Racing in 12th, and then we did have Darren Orkett hot on his heels behind him ahead of Austin William Campbell and Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who completed your top 15, but more importantly 2nd place in the AM class. We then did see none other than Darren Sharples in 16th ahead of Nathan Scott, and then it was Daniel Pays who rounded off that run to 18th ahead of Alberto Gravilli and Jordan Jones, who was your rookie winner there in his first rookie win of the season. An incredible job from him. Behind them, we're not going to talk too much more about all the overall places, because let's focus on our podium finishers in rookie. BJ Alvarez was your run-up in rookie there in 28th for Push the Standard, a lap ahead of Dan Oliver Fox. The first one tries to finish 2 laps down. Behind him, we did have Luke Checker, not too far behind, and Darian Giacovelli, and our rookies putting in an absolutely brilliant job here in perhaps the hardest race of their season. It was 4 laps down to Casper Brotno, who was still classified as a finisher, and then non-finishers classified as they finished over 5 laps down from the race winner. We did have Brett Berings, Alistair Murray, Cy Anthony, Joe Newman, Malik Bass, James Connolly, Nathan Foster, and retiring after only 1 lap, Milton Tomlinson-Dennis. We're now coming on to the individual class finishing positions, because this is where all the points are made or lost. And starting in the elite class, Daniel Stasuk there for NJB Performance An absolutely brilliant drive, and in the end fighting his way through and not looking back. 2.4 seconds was the gap between him and Pavel Dolezal for Paceworks Esports, and Simon Bamber there for Effect Simulations Carbon in third, really trying to pick a fight with everybody today, and in the end making sure he made his way onto the podium. James Powson was fourth for Paceworks Esports, finding a way to break away as the circuit dried up versus the NJB performance pair of Niels Bacard and Andrew Fairley, with Tobias Kruken and Helder Gonzalez there completing a top 8, and behind the Track 6 Racing drive we had the Effect Simulations pair of Austin William Campbell and Alberto Grilli. We had the retirements, unfortunately, for Joe Newman and Milton Tomlinson Dennis. That's how your elites finished. Coming to the pro class, and here we see in pro, Daniel Shillcock with 1.6 seconds ahead of Xander Hill, the Track 6 Racing driver, taking the upper hand of the Tiki Simsport driver in the end. Krista Halsaway was a further 17 seconds back, but a key podium for him, keeps his championship hunt well and truly alive for Track 6 Racing. Ahead of Racing Forces Darren Norquette, who was only a second, if that, behind at the checkered flag. Nathan Scott was fifth, the Empire Motorsport driver coming through the field, and the last of the pro drivers to finish on the lead lap. It was a lap down for Ryan Walker and Ruben Berings, with both drivers having difficulty at different points in the race, despite a brilliant qualifying performance from Altitude 3M Esports' Ryan Walker in particular, and 4 laps down in 8th, Old Dudes in Cars Casper Brotner, the last of the pro finishers. It was a retirement, well in fact it was a non-finish I should say, for Brett Behrens in 9th. I believe he did finish on the road, but he will not be classified for DDK with Digital Motor Art, ahead of retirees of Cy Anthony, Malik Vass and Nathan Foster. Coming on to the AM class, and well, of course, Nathan Foster, you're a pro leader until it all went wrong with a technical issue, but no such technical issues for the Nathan who was just around him at the time when he had his retirement, because your AM winner was Nathan Anstis for UK Sim Racing Hill. 27.2 seconds was the gap between him and Pigeon Racing Sean Cranleigh-Swash, with Darren Sharples completing a top 3 there for Old Dudes in Cars and keeping Cranleigh-Swash honest in the championship chase. It was his teammate, i.e. Sharples' teammate of Daniel Page, who finished 4th there, and then behind them, in 5th lap down, Rob Windsor for UK Sim Racing Stewart, head of UK Sim Racing Price's Niel Kenyon. It was also a lap down for both Jack Barker and Simon Oldfield for Made for Racing and Hoof Hearted respectively, and well, there might have been a few spins, but still a lap down. Venari Racing's Hendrik Zilka was 9th, with your sole retiring Ambien James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Stewart. Lastly, we come to the rookie class, and as we can see here in the rookies, Jordan Jones was your winner and the only rookie to do 29 laps because he wasn't lapped by the race leader. VJ Alvarez, second place there for Push the Standard, and a rather vital second place, even more so with the retirement of Alistair Murray. Needs that to make sure that Alistair Murray has not run away with this going into Silverstone. Dan Oliver Fox will take in a podium there. Well done to him on his first podium of the season, a deserved one at that in the Ferrari. 2 laps down, much like Luke Checker, who in the end could not repeat his heroics of Interlagos. But from the privateer Swazi Gold, Darren Giacovelli completed the finishing rookie order, with Murray being your sole retiree. But that concludes our rundown of the different results for our different classes, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, without further ado, it does mean all the racing comes to pause. But we now need to have a think about our giveaway winners in the VRS giveaway. And, well, let's head to the Wheel of Fortune. Well, as our wheel sits there, let's get our names into the wheel as quickly as we possibly can. And we start off, as always, with the 3-month reward. Now, we have a few names to remove from this list, as we always do. And the first names we remove are Simon Bamber and also Cy Anthony, because they are UK Sim Racing admins and therefore they have ruled themselves as ineligible. But who else do we remove from the list? Well, we have to remove Ryan Davies, who wasn't here today. We also have to remove Xander Hill. And there he goes off the list. Pavel Dolezal as well, who took the award in round number 4. James Powson as well. We're removing the Paceworks Esports drivers rather rapidly here. Steve Hughes wasn't on the grid today, and Stuart Reynolds, the Fury Simsport driver, was not here either. So we've removed our names. Let's spin the wheel and see who takes home the 3-month subscription. And just by a sliver, it is Milton Tomlinson Dennis who takes home the 3-month subscription to add to the 1-month subscription he won as of only 2 rounds ago. As for your 2-month draw, well, we put all the names in again and we remove our obvious ones, firstly. And after doing that, who else do we remove from the list? Well, we have to remove Jack Barker, firstly. He was the first ever 2-month subscription winner at Daytona. We also have Simon Oldfield on there. We have to remove him from round number 2. Round 3, we do have to take away Darren Sharples for the Old Dudes in Cars outfit. And, well, then we have to remove Stuart Reynolds, who wasn't on the grid. James Connolly was definitely here, but his race did not go to plan, and we have to take him off the list. And Alistair Murray as well, that late retirement cost him dear. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our names are removed. Who's our 2-month winner? Let's find out. Well, it's going to be Ryan Walker. The race may have not clicked together, but he still earned himself a 2-month VRS subscription. Congratulations to our Altitude 3M esports driver. Lastly then, coming to our 1-month draw, and here again, let's remove and clean up some of the names that are in here, including taking away Pavel Dolezal, who was the first winner of it at Daytona, and we're also going to remove Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis. We did remove Simon Bamba and also Cy Anthony. We've just got a couple more to go. James Armstrong and Christopher Bates haven't been on the grid. Nathan Scott, meanwhile, was here today, but it didn't quite go his way, so we take him off. We've removed Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis, and Alberto Gravilli's the last one names we have to remove here, as my eyesight does play tricks on me. Let's spin the wheel then for the final time, ladies and gentlemen, and see who takes home the 1-month prize. And a big congratulations to Old Dudes in Cars Casper Rotner, who takes on home the 1-month VRS prize. And they will all be contacted after today's broadcast by the UK Sim Racing Administration team in order to advise them how they can redeem their subscriptions. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back in about a minute or two to update you on the standings out of round number 8. That, of course, is the provisional standings following Road America. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado then, let's regale you with the standings after 8 rounds. And in the elite class, it is Daniel Stasuk who now leads on 182 points after his 6th win of the season ahead of Pavel Dolezal. The gap standing at a rather huge there at this point, 27 points. All it needs now is for Daniel Stasuk to bring home a points finish at the Silverstone circuit in a week's time, and he will have this in the bag. And Pavel Dolezal, right now we'll know that he is riding Lady Luck if he wants to try and find a way to keep this championship alive. But never say never, of course. Anything can happen over the distance. Behind the Paceworks esports driver is his teammate James Powsand, who is fighting for third at this point versus Stuart Reynolds. The Fury Simsport driver a little bit further behind, with a 10-point penalty earlier on in the season when he cost him dear. In fact, 14 points over the penalties means that's the reason he's behind Powsand at this point in time. Niels Bakaj sits in 5th there, a little bit further behind, but still staying there alright and truly in the hunt. And then we do see in 6th place Alberto Gravilli for Effect Simulations, as he looks to also try to get into the hunt for this 4th place. Tobias Kruken and Sam Derbyshire, they're both on 120 points, but the Soul Pet Precision Racing driver is now ahead based on result countback, where Milton Tomlinson Dennis in 9th World of Racing with STR, and Austin William Campbell completes your top 10 there after his appearance today, seeing him score some good points. But from them, in 11th, it's Simon Bamba, best of the rest, ahead of Andrew Fairley, with Joe Newman, James Abraham and Helder Gonzalez completing your top 15, and then round off the elite standings, James Armstrong, Casper Tunstead, Jarrett Lee, Michael Gray and Jan Duffner. Going on to the Pro class, and here we can see the complexion, well, it's a little bit tighter. Ruben Berings is the man leading at the moment, but with this round being consigned to him as a drop score effectively at the time, the DDK Race Anywhere driver now knows that his lead over Daniel Shillcock is being clawed in little by little, and it is now down to 9 points, and the Tractix Racing driver is really emerging as the team's prime candidate to try and bring down the number 91. Brett Berings is the best part of 15 points behind, but is in his own fight for third place. Only a point between him and Krista Halsoy. So we do have right now the DDK teams trying to fend off Tractix Racing, and Casper Brotner with a great result over the last couple of rounds, but a result that's gone away today at least, well, all the way until the point where he has picked up in the end 16 points for his endeavours. The Old Dudes in Cars driver on 128 points holds the fort for 5th. Behind him on 117, Xander Hill for TT Simsport, 3 ahead of Ryan Davies, with Darren Orkett in 8th place for Racing Forces, only a point behind. Cy Anthony and Giles Philippets wrap up your top 10, and outside the top 10 of pros, best of rest is Nathan Scott, only ahead of Nathan Foster based on result countback. Matthew Sheraton, Ryan Walker, Malik Bass and Christian Maltrek complete your pro standings. As for the AMs, well, at the top of the tower is Sean Cranleigh-Swash by 10 points over Darren Sharples, and another second place today. Well, for Sean Cranleigh-Swash, he's opened up that gap a little bit more versus the third place of his main rival, and right now the Pigeon Racing driver will know that if he can make this happen again at Silverstone, he will be very much in control of his destiny when we do head to the Nürburgring in round number 10. The Old Dudes in Cars driver, meanwhile, Darren Sharples, he's only 3 points ahead of Niel Kenyon. And for Niel Kenyon, of course, not the day he's wanted today, and therefore the UK Sim Racing Price driver falling a little further down, and it could be that he's going to get himself involved in the battle for second. Speaking of battles elsewhere, well, the second battle in the AM class really is the fight for 4th. Jack Barker holds it by 3 points ahead of the UK Sim Racing Stuart pair of Rob Windsor and James Connolly. Nathan Anstis right now, where he continues to try and move forward after an absolutely climactic win. Well, that's moved him right back into 7th on 100 points ahead of Daniel Pays, with Simon Oldfield and Tom Weston completing the top 10. Outside the top 10 is Peter Duke in 11th, ahead of Hendrik Zilka, and then we do have Matt Edmondson, Jeffrey Damon, Peter Cox, Ryan Woolsey and Ashley Brooks completing the AM standings. When we come to the rookies, well, we can see things are tightening again suddenly, because Alistair Murray's retirement from this race suddenly means that the UK Sim Racing Hill driver now only has a 9-point advantage over BJ Alvarez, who will be gutted not to have taken the win today, but a second place is still more than what many would ask for, and the push the standard driver needs to push a little bit harder if he wants to level the playing field before we head to our season finale. Luke Checker is even on points versus Jordan Lee Jones. The battle between these two now is going to be all the way to the limit come the season finale. Keep in mind, of course, that Luke Checker did miss the opening a couple of rounds of the season, and therefore he has locked in 0 scores, whereas John Lee Jones has got more, points to play with at this point. I will credit where it's due, because the 58 driver today taking his first win of the season, and a big win at that to keep him right in this hunt for 3rd. Christopher Bates sits in 5th on 100 points, 4 ahead of both Stuart Pearson and Alex Brown, with a 3rd point behind being Dan Oliver Fox, and it's Richard Jones and John Davis completing your top 10. In 11th we have best of rest Darren Giacovelli ahead of Steve Hughes, with Pavel Bruce, Simon Cheshire, Thomas Helmer, Simon Hartley, Reese Kitley and Martin Fernie completing your rookie standings. As for the team's championship top 15, well, we can see here NJP Performance only 3 points ahead of Tractix Racing. It is so tight between these two teams, and the gap has never gone beyond so far this season. Since round number 3, it has not expanded beyond 4 points, if my memory serves me correctly. And these two teams have been constantly back and forth, and never more than 10 points behind them, Old Dudes in Cars, who sits 7 behind. We have got a huge battle for the right to be teams champion going on. And that's before you consider Paceworks Esports not out of this yet, nor DDK with Digital Motor Art, as they fight over 4th place, 5 points between them. DDK with Race Anywhere, meanwhile, they really lead the rest of the pack in 6th, ahead of UK Sim Racing Hill and Slow and Steady Racing. UK Sim Racing Price not too far off either. And then you have your 3rd pack, with UK Sim Racing Stuart holding on to 10th, ahead of Effect Simulations and DWR Sim Coach setups Red and Pigeon Racing. 14th is Push the Standard, who are 28 points clear of Fury Simsport, and behind Fury Simsport, 6 points off Effect Simulations Carbon in 16th. As for your Challenge Cup standings, meanwhile, here are the Challenge Cup standings, and our top 15 is as follows, because you can see at the very top, only a point between the two of them. It is the battle between Daniel Shillcock and Sean Cranleigh-Swash, the two Mr. Consistents of this grid. But Daniel Stasuk is also one of those as well. Let's not rule him out, and he's in 3rd there, the elite driver. James Powelson sits on 81 points, so 4 off of the top 3, but he'll be hoping that he can get a little bit closer given his consistency for Pacebox Esports, ahead of Nathan Anstis in 5th, who right now really is holding 5th there ahead of Luke Checker by a slender margin. Ruben Berings, Alistair Murray, Darren Sharples and BJ Alvarez complete your top 10. There's a healthy load of rookies in here as well. It's great to see, with best of rest and length being Krista Halsoy ahead of Jack Barker, with Rob Windsor, John Lee Jones and Hendrik Zilka completing your Challenge Cup top 15. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can be on the grid, or just how you can know more about the UK sim racing community, or everything in between, we do, as always, recommend you do head to our official website, and that website being at uksimracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen, well, there you can go. A very straightforward website compared to many. We've removed all the complexity from it and tried to make it as easy to navigate as possible. On the homepage, you've got all the latest announcements that are fully integrated to our Discord, and that means you are up to date with all the latest information, much like what you'd see if you're part of the UK Sim Racing Discord community, of which there is a link to join it directly in the top left corner of the screen. We have multiple tabs for live streams and videos on demand, including this broadcast, which you can always catch up with later. We also have tabs to our partners and also to our active leagues, as we do see there the fact that we do have a very simple website, but with it plenty of information available, and therefore it does mean that you're able to find out all the latest information for all things UK sim racing and be on the grid with us. But if you don't want to go to our website, but perhaps you're more of a social media person, you can, of course, follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _ where you can find similar information and primarily all the latest announcements and all things UK Sim Racing. But we'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season, and that is the Virtual Racing School, or VRS, their web address being vrs.racing. And established in 2016, the VRS, or the Virtual Racing School, aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting edge in sim racing hardware, as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to vrs.racing today to find out more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, we're very quickly heading towards our season finale. But before we get there is a stop in the United Kingdom, and it is to the home of British Motorsport, to the home of the BDRC, the British Drivers Racing Club Association. Silverstone's Grand Prix circuit plays host for round number 9, and all the racing will occur next Sunday, on Sunday the 24th of August 2025. But come join us as if it were live on Monday the 25th of August 2025, where we may see some champions crowned, particularly Daniel Stasuk in the elite class. It's all looking to be going his way. But meanwhile, in the pro, the AM and the rookie classes, it's anybody's guess before you get to the teams class, and indeed before you get to the Challenge Cup. So plenty of stories still to unfold, and we will see you there at Silverstone in a week's time. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night.